Cheers.
Salute.
It's nice to finally meet you.
Finally. Appreciate you inviting me out and on.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome.
I guess we should go over kind of how we met.
Yeah.
So I had Patrick Tuohey on,
Yep.
which is the episode that you watched.
Yep.
And you wanted to come on and discuss some things about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So kind of what your opinion on it is the studies that were discussed were conflicting from what you read. From Patrick's remarks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it was not just him. I mean, he represents, in kind of my opinion, a group of people that I would call them like the no vote. Like that's what I refer to as from last year during the vote.
Mm-hmm.
They were part of the no group. It's not just here, not just him.
Right.
But it's of that. And as I read into it, it was more or less, they have their own opinion that they present as fact. Now, I think now we've seen a lot of different things that always get presented as this is absolute unquestionable fact.
And what we discuss is that, when interpreting these studies, they can be kind of subjective to who's ever reading them, right?
More than you know. In my opinion, like when I read it, I was like, wow, this is wild. Mm-hmm. The way that they're coming up there as this is just blatant fact. Now, do I have bias? Does everyone have bias? Of course.
Right.
But the way I read it, I'm like, even unbiasedly going, there's no way they can claim what they claim. And that's kind of how this got started was, I've been obsessively watching this stuff. I mean, do a lot of that stuff, deep dive. My wife thanks you for inviting me on so I can not annoy her with this. I'm sure I've annoyed so many people on this because it's just, I kind of get into it.
Right.
It started very innocently when I even started looking into this.
Yeah.
I was very passive, just like, and then once it started to get more into it, I was like, oh, there's a whole thing here. So that's kind of how it got started. So when I was looking into this, the whole studies say, that's where that phrase kind of came. Because I mean, I know you're worried. We're like, oh, you're just a keyboard warrior. Definitely concerned that's not me. But when I'm on there, that's where I would go and look, see different topics like news, any story. I would look for it to see what people are saying. And when I would get on there, I would see more often than not, studies say this. It was kind of like a catch-all, sword wielded, shut up, you can't talk no more because
of the studies.
Yes, everything was either you're biased or stupid. That was basically when people say studies say, and I know it can go to a lot of different things now as we see. That's what I was getting sick and tired of. So I was like, I'm going to read these studies. Right. I just want to read them. I want to see, am I blatantly wrong? Because I think I texted you once. I said, can I be biased? Anyways, definitely.
Well, that's what I liked. So from our initial conversation, it was never like there was no animosity towards me and you.
Absolutely
and it's hard to tell sometimes through text. So I think me and you did a very good job at letting each other know, hey, I'm not trying to come at you. This is just how I feel. So I thought that was awesome. And plus, one, I thank you for coming on. I do. I appreciate that because, I mean, the show is what it is, but it's not me. It's you guys that come on. You know what I mean? Everyone who's been on the guests, it's made the show what it is. And I love it. I love meeting guys like you, the people I've had on, because not only do I get to hear from people in Kansas City that, normal dude, 9 to 5, but it just happens that you're very passionate about this thing with the stadium. You know what I mean? And I don't think I need to have some type of blue check mark or, and no disrespect to Patrick Tuohey. He did a great job, came on here.
I listened,
spoke his piece for on his side of what he thinks. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. And to me, made a lot of sense from what he said. But I also want to make sure I get the other side of it too. Sure. You know what I mean? And absolutely. I don't need necessarily, I would love to have, of status of Patrick Tuohey, but also I look at your opinion just as important because you live here, you've invested in this city, you invested in your team. So I want to hear your side as well. So that's what's cool about this show.
Absolutely. And that's where I was excited to come on because, most times it is just like when you responded back. I mean, it's not the first time I've had somebody say that. I'll say, I'll send it to you. Nobody's else taken up on the offer of, hey, send it to me. You were the first one to say, yeah, send it to me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I mean, I don't own this stuff. I was like, I will gladly send you what I was sent to me.
Yeah.
So I was
and I will be honest.
I know.
I read as much as I could, which is about the consensus. That's
That's
about what I went down to.
And I'll cover some points that I saw in there as I read, because it actually wasn't that deep as I started to read into it. And
well, why does it have to be 88 pages. And I get it because this coming from the conversation side of things, everyone's like, how do you talk for 3 hours? It happens like that, but to sit there and jot out, it's almost like the Big Beautiful Bill. Okay. Why has it got to be 1,100 pages? Why these omnibus bills, which these are two different things, but just lengthwise, it's insane.
Well, I'll even say though, on the length of it though, even that's kind of BS. I mean, I'll give my opinion why I think it's 88 pages. On the study, why it's 88 pages. I read each point. It's a lot of just.
You think it's over-engineered? Like, to use that term, over-engineered?
I could be wrong, but I do think it was, I have an agenda. I'm going to go and make my point. I think the point was already proven. I'm going to go out here and explain why my point was already there. And that's when I read these studies. It was mostly, they have all these different points. It was trying to be a crystal clear, this is, fact. And the reason why it was 88 pages was it was an abstract where it broke down all these other studies. I didn't know that. I will say like, okay, this is the best you got is how I looked at it. Okay, this 88 pages was broken down of all these other studies. I actually asked that one guy who wrote the book, he's the only guy, give him credit. The only guy that responded was this guy that wrote the book, Field of Schemes. I tried messaging the Economists. They will not respond. Just basic questions. I mean, I guess I am just some guy. But this guy, give him credit. He had his email on his book page. He responded. It's like, great. So I've asked him some questions.
The only credit I give to them, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, you're fine.
Is that they probably do get bombarded with so many emails so they can get lost. But if they do come across it and it does hold merit, I don't see why, just because you happen to be just a normal dude, why they can't take it seriously. And actually, the questions may help them see some things that they didn't. That's
what I would think. The Colorado professor, the one that sent me the studies, that one I was sent you, he did respond until he stopped. That was kind of odd. I thought. I can tell he, I guess, didn't realize it was on his side per se. That conversation stopped. But this studies, which I was saying, the guy,
you were going against him on his study?
Well, when I started to reach out to him, he was in one of the studies. When I reached out to him, he was like, "Oh, I'll gladly send that to you," because I said, "Hey, I'm trying to learn a little more."
Right.
He sent it. He corresponded a little bit, and then just went off the grid, and that's fine.
Why do you think that is? Just your own personal opinion?
Okay. I'll give him credit. He could have just been busy, like you said.
Right.
Or
he didn't like what you were asking.
Didn't really feel like getting into it because they sometimes, I think, maybe have an opinion of my opinion's superior.
Right.
And you're coming against it. You're just another idiot.
Yeah.
Fine. No big deal. This Neil guy, he's been pretty good that wrote that. He at least has corresponded a little bit on some questions. He was pretty open about it. And he told me that the studies, though, and this is where we were I heard on your, I can't remember who you may have had it last week. I think it's who was on.
Christina?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're talking about studies and all these different things, I asked him, I go, so it's just these two studies? He goes, oh, no. These studies were a breakdown of all these other studies. I was like, okay, great. There's more studies. So A, I'm like, this is the best you got. This is the culmination of all the other studies. But B, I said, I want to read those studies. Well, and I said, I can't because they're behind a paywall. And I'm like, why? That makes, to me, no sense. He's like, well, they're actually owned by, I think, the universities, and you have to subscribe to get them. And I'm like, well, then who's reading it? Just other people that are in the universities for their own good. The average person that would vote
in their own echo chamber.
Yeah. They're not, you can't even see the stuff.
Yeah.
So the best I can do is go off of the culmination of the Bradbury study. And he was on both.
That's the one I had seen. Yes. That's the one I had on here. Wasn't there 130 studies or something like that?
Something like that. And what they try to do is overplay their hand. And I'm like, okay, I read the culmination of the study, and there was just so much stuff in there. I was thinking, if this is such lock, stock, and barrel proof, why? Why are we all this dumb then? Because I'll use an example of when I say I'm biased but not stupid.
Right.
I'm living in Kansas, long time, back about 10 years ago. Brownback put in a tax reform plan that totally benefited me. I mean, it was like a gift. And when he did that, I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work. This is going to be a disaster. And sure enough, within 2 years, he lost the whole party. Democrat went in charge. They repealed all his stuff because I was like, it wasn't going to work. Even though it benefited me, I'm looking at it. This is objectively stupid.
Right.
And it didn't. On this, though, I'm reading the studies and I'm like, yeah, I get it. We're all paying into it. So is it good or bad? If this is so going to, we can't fund the schools, we can't fund the police, we can't find anybody because we're all paying for the stadiums. I'm like, well, then this would be so easy to read. We're going to see we have so many stadiums built, right? We'd see city after city. I know you didn't say you see it, but maybe some of your listeners had. There's a great episode, old school episode of The Simpsons, way back.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first seasons, the monorail episode.
Mm-hmm.
In that is a charlatan comes to town. He sells them on the idea of a monorail. It's going to make your city amazing and do all these amazing things. He was a grifter. He stole the money, built a crappy monorail, and left his past cities. They did this in ruins.
Mm.
So why are we not seeing all these other cities that have done these exact same deals in ruins? They're not. Nobody's crying like, oh my gosh, we did this deal and now the school just closed and all these bad things are happening.
Right.
I'm not saying the slippery slope couldn't happen.
Uh-huh.
Like in California, slippery slope happened there. The taxes have gone way out of control out there. People have left. There is provable negativity.
Yeah, and that's one thing I took from your argument as well. It's that like every city is different and there may be other varying factors of why it didn't work out. Not just that the stadium was moved there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when
which I get.
No, totally.
Yeah, I get that.
And like I told you, I'm not trying to sway your opinion on your libertarian views, which I share many of them of.
We talked about this, that you've already understood my side of it, coming to the taxes and the subsidies and all that stuff. But your point is more the economic growth side is the argument that you want to make. Yeah.
It's the loss would be greater than the principle. And what this started with was, like I said, when they were first talking about the stadiums and the whole idea of it was around 23, they were floating the idea of we're going to bring it downtown. And they had like 40 different ideas like in a map. And I'm trying to hunt down where's it going to be? Right. Because in my head, I'm going, this is a full-blown conclusion. Like, no, awesome. Just pick the place. Then they narrowed it down to North Kansas City and KC. Kind of like, which city are we going to bless you with? Mm-hmm. So when they picked the East Village, well, it was supposed to be East Village. That was the idea. And then the last minute, they did switch to the Crossroads location, which, hey, I thought that was an amazing move.
Why did they do that?
There's a lot of conspiracy theory, if you will. It was to appease what's their names that own the Power and Light district. Or there was a favor to Mayor Q, all these different things related about Power and Light. In my opinion, it's just a better spot.
Possible financial incentives for certain people.
Maybe, but like when I first looked at it, I didn't know much about how you do this. I'm looking at the green spot. I'm looking on a map trying to predict where it's going to be. I'm like, well, it's definitely going at 12th and Cherry. That's what I predicted. There's a bunch of empty parking lots. It's going to be there.
Right.
So then at the last minute when they picked the Crossroads, I was first thinking, holy cow, they did it. Our city's finally fully arriving. We're going to be like Chicago and all these Cleveland, all these other big cities that have big baseball teams downtown. We did it. Like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And it was right about then. I didn't get on Twitter much. That was not my thing, but I started to when I was trying to see, all right, where's the stadium going?
Yeah.
I saw the other side. That's when I was like, okay, there is this group of people against this idea in general. I thought this was just a formality vote. We're going to deal like, we picked the Crossroads. We're going to do this. Did I think the Chiefs' plan was a little weak? Yeah, but still.
What do you think was the issue? What do you think was the issue with the Chiefs last year just being so poorly on communication?
Oh, there's so many theories on that too. I believe I've read every theory.
Because and we and you were discussing that. And I'm not going to remember everything that we're discussing. So remind me if you remember. But my thing is I looked at it as a strategy. You know what I mean? Like, let's not give them too much. Let's hold back a little. We've got other people in discussions as well, not just Kansas City. And we talked Kansas as another one, which I'll have to look through here. But I seen that they were offering a pretty lucrative deal for the Chiefs to get them. Yeah.
After the fact.
After.
Yes, this all happened after. So the vote, like there's people thinking the Chiefs wanted this to fail because they wanted,
that's what I've heard.
A lot of different things. I mean, did they do a terrible job? Yes.
But why? They're not dumb.
My opinion is this. They were put together back with the Truman Sports Complex originally. Okay. They were a one-part deal. In 2006, they renewed the sales tax that we have now that'll go through 31 together. My theory was it was always the Royals that did want to do something new. The Chiefs looked at it like, we're not really looking for a new stadium yet, but we'll take your money. So is it possible and more likely that if it passed 10 years down the road, we want a new stadium, we need to talk a whole new deal? Probably.
Yeah, because this is what I have to get figured out because I sometimes mix the two. The Royals want to go downtown.
Yes.
Kansas City Chiefs want to renovate, right?
In Missouri.
But there is talks of possibly after the 2031 that they could possibly go somewhere else if they're not taken care of.
Well, Kansas. So that brings us back to when they were doing the vote in last year. Mm-hmm. It was kind of agreed upon. If it passed, the Chiefs did say, we're going to stay, long term. Royals are going downtown. That was it. Just passed the vote. Mm-hmm. The no votes kind of came out strong. So I started watching it. That's when they had the debate. They had Sly James, who represented the Royals, not as mayor, but as their talking piece. They had a person from the Royals. They had Patrick Tuohey on there. Mm-hmm. The no vote was heavily also being pushed by the Kasey Tenants group.
Yeah, I've seen them.
I've learned all about them. That was a whole different group I didn't even know existed.
Is there anything that, because I don't know much about them other than they, during COVID, they got pretty big, right? Because they were kind of getting pushed out of their, I might be wrong on this. This is what I remember.
I don't know.
I do know they're dealing with a lot of slumlords where they're not taking care of their properties. I know that was a big one.
That's currently going, yes.
And so maybe I might be getting them confused during COVID, but I thought they were involved where they were trying to get landlords not to kick them out of their their properties, to give them some sort of grace period or something like that, which I thought was, and sorry if this
fine.
Isn't, if it isn't them, well, to them. Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That you can't do that.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, whether or not we're going through a crisis, you can't tell somebody who owns a property.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? But the slumlord stuff, I do agree, because I have seen a lot of stories of just people neglecting their properties, and some of these people are living in horrible conditions.
Absolutely.
So
no, they're absolutely horrible. And
yeah,
I think their response of what they did, I disagree with certain parts of it. Even the slumlord, my thing is, let them out of their lease. Do not steal their deposit. If they want to leave, let's help them find a different place.
Right.
Because, I mean, those places, they were awful, but they were also stupidly cheap. I mean, they were basically people buying slums, renting them cheap, and then they were upset. And I'm all for them helping them get an improvement on it. Mm-hmm. But their method, I disagreed with.
Yeah, but where do we, like, what do we help them with? Because, me, I don't think we should be helping with anything. I mean, if it's not working at that place, I'm very sorry. And my heart does go out to people who aren't able to make enough money to be able to live in a better place. But I mean, we start just handing people stuff or paying for people. You know what I mean? Like, what really happens?
Exactly.
After
I was
that.
Totally against that whole idea.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I have to look into them more because I don't know much about them. Honestly, I'd have them on if they wanted to come on.
No, it's very interesting. I think just a lot of their tactics, a lot of their ways they did it, just the whole going on strike. I'm like, I disagree. I'm the one of, if you don't like it because it is awful, you need to leave.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that goes for my views on most of just living in general.
Sometimes though, like I conflict with my libertarian views because I do know as like a city, and I know we could go down, and I'm sure somebody way more educated than me could break down, if all these things were to be fixed, then we wouldn't have this.
Yes.
So I see that side.
Yes.
But we don't. So like, what do we do living in a society with these people?
Yep.
Like, do we just tell them, well, figure it the fuck out? Because my libertarian side says that. But then again, I'm like, man, I'm my more compassionate side's like, man, I kind of feel for them. But I mean, we do have GoFundMes and stuff like that. So
I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah.
That, where it's
like, a mixed feeling.
It is a mixed feeling because you're like, I do feel like most of the ways we would fix this won't fix it. Like I've gone into conversations with the, homes should be free. Like it's a right. And I'm like, my question is this, I kind of agree, but here's where I disagree. If we all get free homes, right? Mm-hmm. We get free living. Well, then where? How big? How big do we all get? Who's building it? Who's maintaining it? Who gets to pick who gets to be closest to the best views?
Yeah, where's this money coming from?
Yeah, I mean, just there's so many choices that have to be made that it's a nice statement, but there's other ways to go about it. Yeah. And I think, we can go down the whole rabbit hole.
Does that mean more taxes for the working class? Because that's who's going to be getting taxed. Exactly. Rich people don't get taxed.
And I just feel like to help that in general, it is always more things that help more building stuff. Mm-hmm. I know every time we have a new building go up, the same thing gets said. Oh, that looks like affordable housing. Well, no, they built nice stuff because what you need that brand new 4-light, 5-light to have people go, oh, that's the newest, best thing. I moved there. Well, where did you move out of? Somebody's moving in there.
Right.
And it is the trickle down because my first place I lived in was this Roach Motel looking apartment down in Shawnee. But back in the 60s, it was the brand new place. Mm-hmm. And by the time I could afford to move out on my own, I was like, oh, that'll work. I did what I did, but because it was built.
Yeah, stepping stones.
Yeah. And so that's a whole rabbit hole of the Kasey tenants group. But I learned about that whole thing on this. They were very vocal on the stadium. Now, I was so annoyed. This is another part of why that vote went down, that I was like, you guys got to open your eyes. Because in that vote was a $200 million package for the community benefits. And all this talk came out of, oh, that's it. Basically, that's all you're going to give us, $200 million. Well, it's like, you got to think bigger about it, because are we going to collectively all do a GoFundMe to help the buses? No, it's just not going to happen. So that's some of the thing. I was like, I do want to help you, but this is an avenue to do it. And when they were doing the conversations about the stadiums, here's where it started to get me like going, okay, what are we talking about here? This is last year's vote. There has been some changes, but the idea of it was, okay, we're going to do this general sales tax. And it was, I agree, the way they did it could be seen, and probably was, a regressive tax, meaning everybody's getting hit with that tax. You buy anything in Jackson County, great, now I'm funding it. Now, this new way they're doing it is not that way. They're past something. Missouri, the state, did something entirely different, and I'll explain a little bit why. But even on this first vote, I'm like, well, keep in mind, everybody that comes from Kansas and out of state to spend money when they're coming here is also paying to that.
Right.
They're getting nothing in return. We are at least getting the teams in return.
I've seen an argument, though, on depending on how high those out-of-state taxes are, or tourist tax or whatever they call it, it could be also a reason people don't want to come.
Absolutely. Now, here's where I would push back on that, though. We have no mountains here. We have no oceans here. We have none of that. We have our teams, and we build our tourism around that. Our biggest mechanism we have coming up, the World Cup. All these different things are sports related because we have stadiums. They picked us because we have Arrowhead. So that is our tourism.
That's what me and Christina talked about. Because I asked her, I was like, how's Florida and all these places getting away with no property tax? Well, it's filled by tourists.
We want to go there.
Yeah, tourism.
Yeah, I go there. We all go there. We spend our money because that's their mechanism. We have our teams, our love our city, and that's what we have. I mean, I joke, and I kind of agree with a lot of your points, because when you're like, you know, kind of making fun of the sports thing, I do it too. Every time the sports season comes around, me and my buddy go, all right, time to let a bunch of rich 20-year-olds decide how my happiness is going to be this week. And we own it. We know it. We're like, it is stupid. But at the same time, I love it because it's inconsequential in the grand scheme. It is, oh, you're just letting, what is the thing with the Romans? Give them circuses and bread and circuses. At least give me a bread and circus. I want to go see the game, because we can do two things at once.
You can enjoy it, and I like it as well. You know, I do. I have a good time with my family. My parents usually have it on Sundays. It's a way for families to get together and bond and, you know, watch good entertainment. But at the same time, my issue is from that old quote is give them bread and circuses and they'll never revolt. So it's like your attention is so much on this game. And there's so much going on around you that you're not paying attention. I mean, even I was just on a podcast that just got released today on the Ozone Layer podcast. And I was explaining to them, you know, when guys tell me, I just don't dabble in politics. And I get that. I've said that many times too. I'm naturally getting more into it. I'm getting older. My daughter, both my daughters are getting older. I worry about them, you know, as they get older, what they're going to have to go through. So I'm paying attention more to these things, you know, and naturally I do the podcast. So that's kind of pushed me to do it as well. But there's so much fuckery that's going on right now. And guys can name me every stat from one player or multiple players. And I'm like, man, if we could just share some of that energy that you're using for this and focus on this stuff. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not fun. I know, you know, it takes maybe a little bit more work. But man, when I see stuff like that, and I used to be that guy. I was like, if you can just put some of it over here.
I think it's getting that way. I think we're getting more towards that, though. More people are very involved. I think younger people are getting more involved. So I just
wish it was more.
Yes,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? We always want more and more and more, because I think more people are getting involved, but I wonder to what extent, because we can only judge this by statuses online, right? And we could probably cut out half of them, because half of them probably don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. It's all emotion-based or trendy, or my friend said this, I don't want to get looked at this, so I'm just going to support this. So it's like, So it leads me to believe, more, but it's still a very low percentage.
Well, the negative side of that, though, if you can bring in the comparison, which I think we've seen, is when you turn politics into sports, it becomes my team versus your team instead of our team.
It does.
And that is the big thing that's really, I know that it's the trendy say, oh, the power of this party and the power of that party, and everyone just wants power. Yeah, but they want to win. They want all that stuff. But when the people supporting it, the fans, the voters, turn into just, this is sports. I've said this about the stadiums. I've said this about even the KC tenant stuff, about all that stuff. It's about collaboration, which we don't have.
Right.
Like one of the other big factions that was against, which I understand why they were against the stadium vote last year, was in the Crossroads. There was about 23 businesses that were going to be, they said, oh, they're going to tear down the business. No, they're going to be relocated. I think what they should have done, I mean, I'm not trying to judge any of what they did. I would be scared too if I had a business I'm working on and they're like, all
everybody
of a sudden,
knows where you're at. Yeah.
I would have done it differently. I can't only speak of what I would have done, but I would have been screaming to the, hilltops, hey, you're not trying to, ruin my business, but I want to, this is what we need, specifics. And I think it quickly became a, the no side versus the yes side. And I'm like, but the other businesses will help, like, regardless. And they turn into, no, this is just going to hurt. And I'm like, they did at the very last minute start talking about, oh, we could put the tattoo shop inside the stadium. It'd be the first tattoo shop in a baseball stadium. And those ideas came little too late. But that's when I was like, if it started at the beginning, and I blame both sides. I think the Royals should have been way more vocal. And hey, they've been still to this day too secretive of what they want. On the flip side, the people there should have been like, hey, this could be a lot of customers. We could, cover my moving, cover my new spot. I mean, as much money as they spent to try to get the vote passed last year, they could have helped these people out instead.
Yeah.
I think if they would have had the momentum of the owners that lived in the businesses that were there,
right,
the buy-in would have been better. But they were firmly going, nope, you're trying to take our business out. And I was like, the collaboration could have happened then. Right. Because I have some friends that were in businesses that own a brewery over not far that was in Crossroads, not affected. He was like, he really was like, I have to be kind of quiet about this because it was the self-assumed thing that we can't talk against this because our neighbors in the Crossroads it won't go over well. That was what was implied.
Yeah.
So I get it. Even though the only one that did speak up, Imperial Brewing, they came on Channel 4 or something like that. And they were like, oh yeah, this will be obviously a benefit to our business.
Do you think some of them were worried because they were renting?
Yes, I definitely think.
And they're worried about property value increasing?
Not as much that. Because I asked him exactly that. He was a renter. And I asked him, are you worried? He goes, we weighed the pros and cons. And yes, the rent could go up, but we expect the foot traffic to also match. And he goes, right now, frankly, we need more customers.
And that's the only thing that when we were discussing, through text, is that I understand your side for the Royals because they're going to have more games. Yes. Now, if it would have been an NFL team, what do you got? How many home games do you got?
There's 10 games. There's a few concerts. I agree. On the football side of it, I am less as enthusiastic about the economic benefits other than the fact that they do put 1 million people in. There's 1 million tickets that get sold with concerts, through the season, with including the concerts. That's a lot of revenue that's brought in. Not including like the.
Would that conflict with the T-Mobile Center though, having already a venue right there?
The baseball.
If the Arrowhead would have.
Oh, I think it could have. I just think football. I think they're doing what they need to do, which is the right thing, which is also part of the point in the studies, which I kept on arguing with these economists. I said, your blanket statement that stadium investments are bad. I go, that makes no sense because it's only bad depending on how much they ask to borrow and take from that. If they said, we're going to build a stadium and it's going to cost $2 million, it's going to be a big win. If they're like, no, we need $20 billion, I'd be like, that's insanely stupid. So
how much was the total? Let's go over that. Yeah. How much? So do you know the current numbers now?
Approximately. So Chiefs came out. They said the renovation would be about $1.2 billion. The new stadium they're saying might be $3 billion. If they moved to Kansas,
so hold on, $1.2 billion just for renovations.
Yes.
Right. That's to stay where they're at.
Stay where they're at.
Okay.
Renovate.
Have you seen some of the renderings on that? Or
see, that's what also is kind of entertaining. And my wife entertains me with it. She is an architect, so I can bounce off. Hey, these renderings were like even the Royals renderings. People are going off, going, "Hey, there's no fountains." She goes, "It's just a generic drawing."
Yeah,
like these were the vote. I got in many discussions with people saying we voted this down. I go, You voted the way it was funded. You voted the location.
Mm-hmm.
That's changed. The current one is Royals are looking still probably about, I'm thinking about $1 billion is what I've been hearing. But that's not all funded by the public.
Yeah.
That is, I think different numbers have been said. They're still hopefully going to still do the $1 billion of investment on their own. And then that was another topic on Patrick that he brought up.
Hold on, who's going to do $1 billion of investment on their
ownership? Own? The Royals ownership was going to do their own $1 billion invested.
Okay, hold on. Let's stick with Chiefs.
Sure.
Real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
So Chiefs, $1.2 billion for renovations,
yes.
right? Or a possible relocation after 2031. Is that what you're saying? That would be $3 billion?
No. If they went to Kansas, there's no renovation. It'd be a new stadium, and the estimates I've heard is about a $3 billion stadium in Kansas.
But could they?
Could they?
They can't until 2031, right? Because
no.
they're locked in.
And either way, it's going to still take multiple years to get done. I mean, there'll be no new stadiums in this city or no renovations completed before 2031. I don't.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
So this isn't. So if this does pass through, what is it? What's the next step?
The current thing, what's happening right now. So Missouri came out. They sent the state decided, okay, we will fund up to 50%. I've got into those weeds as much as I can of the state. I've tried going on to read all the details I could find, but the state's doing 50%. And here's where it gets just the way they're doing it now. I'm like, I would love to tell all the no vote that came out in 2024 and voted no. Hey, you won. Take what you did and, run with it because you actually did what you wanted to. As in, a lot of people said no because they wanted a better deal. This is a first offer. A lot of people on the yes side, me going, I like my guy in 6'10", Carrington Harrison. He goes, it's a gamble I don't want to take. And I agree because they could just leave altogether. Kansas wasn't at the table at that time. But these people said, nope, we need a better deal. Others said, no, the state needs to help. Why? I think Frank White's one of his real big things he was against. He didn't want Jackson County to be the sole financial burden while the state benefited. And I can't argue with him.
That makes sense, yeah.
And he did, and they asked him, hey, what do you think about the state passing?
They talk a lot of shit on that Frank White guy.
Because he really
Pete
was.
Mundo says a lot of stuff on his show.
He was, the way he negotiated was very obstinate, in my opinion. I watched all of those things. He wasn't responsive. The opposite of collaboration as you get. Because one of the big points that was made when all this negotiating was going on for the first vote was, where are you going to go? You're not leaving. Even Patrick Tuohey gets on the debate. I wanted to just jump through the screen because he goes, oh, these are meaningless threats to leave. They do this all the time. And I go, one person did ask the question, Patrick, can we have your cell phone number in case they do leave? Didn't get a clear answer. He said, sure. Because I'm like, he's got nothing to lose. He's not a fan. He's not from here. Yeah. He doesn't have that tie of pride into this team.
Patrick isn't from here?
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
He might be a fan.
I apologize. He did say on your podcast, he did say he got excited during the Royals World Series, but was not fully invested on it.
Right.
But
I think everybody became a fan during the World Series. Even me.
Everybody.
I did not like baseball until it hit playoffs.
The team, the Charismatics, they had it on TV. Everyone, no matter where you went, people were talking about it.
I watched one of the World Series games on the riverfront. That was fun with like a big blow up screen. It
was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. The parade was like something we've never seen.
That was wild.
Never seen in this town.
When I went to that, I was like, holy shit.
It looked like Armageddon when you drove. I went back down 35. I'm like people left their cars just to go.
On the highway.
I brought my kids down. I dragged them, and my kid was 3. I've got my 2 girls. I'm holding them. Just, you got to at least be here. Yeah. Did we see anything? No, but we're going to be part of the mass of humanity. Celebrate this. And that's where when people talk about, we're sports, it's not that important. Name a note that we had 1 million people show up to.
I get that. And it is important. I do.
Not important, but celebrated.
It is. But it is an important thing to bring the community together. I see that side of it. I just draw the line on the subsidies part.
Absolutely.
Because my big thing is like, and I've discussed this before, is that like, it just like what Patrick said, you're giving these people subsidies every single time, and the next person's going to want it, and the next person's going to want it, and then it just becomes a trend. It's like what he explained with Power and Light. It's like people are going to flock because they're going to want that deal.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing I don't want to continue doing.
It needs to be done smarter though. And the reason why way I say even about the Power and Light situation, which I can even disagree and argue on that, is
we'll get to that.
We'll definitely get to that. But in the general, though, the argument of does the NFL, MLB, does it run like a mob? Yeah. Do I like it? If I'm with you, if I could do two things.
I just seen on the Forbes list, dude. I mean, the amount of money these owners make, is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Like it is.
And I'm a libertarian. I'm all for you. Make all the money you want, man. But
wild.
Damn, like when you're taking our tax dollars for it because you can't fund it. And I get it. Their big argument is, especially for the Chiefs, is that they don't own that land. Okay. I guess Jackson County owns that.
They do.
Okay. But like, that's still your stadium. You know what I mean?
It is. And they do renovations. They paid out of pocket. It's like a renter that would pay.
When was the last time they did?
06.
Okay.
That was part of that vote.
Did they pay for that?
No, that was part of the vote in 06 when we extended or created that 3/8 cent sales tax, which they wanted to extend.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
So they did that. They did the renovations. And I get it. Should they pay? I'm on the same page. Yeah. I think they should. Like in a perfect world, should teachers be highly paid? My opinion, sure, absolutely. Should police be highly paid? Sure, absolutely. Make these in-demand positions.
But it's just like the tariff situation that we discussed. It's like if everybody's tariffing, then it only makes sense. You know, we kind of have to join it as well. And I'm a free market guy, but we got to be logical about this. If we've got other states not trying to play ball,
yes. If there's a federal way to block it, I would be for it. But here's where I'd also be a little bit, from being from Kansas City, where I would be a little hesitant, because this is some of the counter arguments, which can make sense, is we're not even the top 30 biggest market. These, the owners, I've seen the comments. If I make anything in support of them, it's one or two things. Oh, you're a bootlicker. They love that. I'm like, I'm just common sense.
A bootlicker for what?
Oh, if the man, the big money, they'll say that. Oh, you're just as if they're gonna.
Usually they call like police supporters a bootlicker.
Same thing. Anything of that. It's that whole culture that's that.
Or they'll give you a name. Yeah, that's big.
Or they'll say you're being paid. And I'm like, I wish. That'd be cool. I'd take it. I send
you are deep in the comments.
I am.
Sometimes I'll be in some and I'll be like, oh, there he is.
People ask me, my buddy, he goes, man, you were on a one-man crusade last year. I was like, I go, look, man, I do multiple things at work. I'm making my calls. I'm doing this. And I'm like, I got to think.
Take a little break.
The main thing is whenever I debate or talk or any of this stuff, I try to do it from a position where I know what I'm at least somewhat talking about, interested in, and can back up my bullshit at least a little bit.
No, I do actually admire that though. Like, there's another one, Gracia. She does the same thing, man. Like you and her, I've interviewed her. She was the one from Cuba who came here, and she's just really good at like writing out her thoughts in the comments. I suck at that shit, bro. That's why I don't even do it.
I know you
sometimes I will. Like
I know you were saying, you got time enough for everything. I'm like, I do, but I believe me, I have to always go back because my grammar writing is awful.
Way better than mine.
My spelling.
I don't even put periods. If there is a period, I ChatGPT that.
Believe me, sentence. I should do that more. I'm like, gosh, I look like a freaking idiot when I write half my shit. I'm like, this doesn't. That's what I'm trying to say. I can't type what I'm trying to always say.
Right.
But on this though, when they're like the way those leagues do work, it is like, hey, we're not the biggest market here. If they're has a business owner. The Hunts could go, we know that Kansas City loves the Chiefs, but we went to San Antonio. They got more people. We can make more money there.
But how many teams is that? I guess Texas is huge.
Huge. You could drive all day and night and still not leave that state.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not saying it should be there per se, but it is a partnership. The city partners with them. I think there are benefits that they in the studies downplayed, which I can go in where the benefits are even on Power and Light, where the benefits we see are. But when they did the whole vote last year, it was done in they're not going to leave. And what happened within 4 weeks of the vote going down? Kansas had that offer lined up. They were like, come over here. We already passed it. No vote. Join us. They said it was, well, we want to keep the teams in the region, which I appreciate. But don't make confusion. It was going to be an income to them. Like
it's not much of a shift over to Kansas. I mean,
here's where it is:
15-mile radius.
Not from a fan going, but from a city. And here's where I would absolutely dispute Patrick's opinion. It's an opinion that is not a fact that he made. Was that grocery store analogy he tried saying? Because that's in these studies all over.
Yeah, I have it on my notes. Yeah.
Their belief is it's just from one hand to the other. We're not creating anything new. And I'm like, in Kansas City, actually, there's a guy I was just a couple days ago. Commenting, he was backing up my opinion on there. And he's like, I said, hey, I'm going to be doing this. Anything you want me to cover? And he said exactly that. He goes, Kansas City is different in multiple ways, but in this specific way, with our border the way it is. If that team were to go over to Kansas, it takes all those, the sales revenue, the tax revenue goes to them. That right now is going to the state of Missouri and to Jackson County and the city. If it went to Kansas, all of that money, even though we can just go to the game there,
right?
Now we've got a literal shortfall that was there in Missouri that's now longer not there.
And correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
but I don't think Patrick used that analogy for a move to Kansas. I think he used that for the Kasey Royal Stadium from where it's at currently to downtown.
Yes, but it still would, the same point would apply if it went to Kansas. That money go. But even in that, though,
yeah, but then you're talking about to a different state. So I don't know if he said that for a different state. I don't want to speak for him unless you heard that.
No. Okay. You're correct in that regard.
He was more of discussing from one area in the city to another.
Sure.
Doesn't make sense because you're just moving the money in that location to this location. Now, going over state lines, I could see where that could be an issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, well, it kind of ties into the whole, they're not leaving. You can only make that argument of we're not losing any money if they couldn't leave the state. If we had them tied in that you cannot leave our city or Jackson County, that opinion can matter.
They would never do that.
No.
Yeah.
But here's where also it doesn't make a lot of sense. This is where I kind of dispute it. When they talk about moving money from one hand to the other, it does, most of that argument does fall into them leaving the city, or leaving the state. But let's just say they go from what he was talking about. Did anything get generated because they went from Truman Sports Complex to downtown? Well, let's just go with the actual argument. Will anything benefit? And here's why I would say, yeah, big time. And here's why I'd easily argue this. One, go back to 2003. Okay, prior to that, and this is where I kind of like entertain myself with the under 27 crowd, the Gen Zers. Mm-hmm. Like, you see what's here and think that it's maybe always been that way. I'm like, in 2003 and prior, our downtown was a ghost town.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like, dangerous and quiet and desolate.
Yeah.
Westport was the place. Plaza was the place. That was it.
Yeah.
So now we have this development going, but it's not done.
What was in place of Paramount? Do you remember? 2003, I would have been like,
just
I would have been
limited
like
use
grade.
buildings.
Yeah.
Just limited use. Like, downtown was basically, you could go to, you probably went on a field trip to the Steamboat Arabia in the River Market.
Maybe.
I mean, it was kind of one little thing. You had,
I know you're talking about with all those shopping centers.
Exactly. You go like the River Market area. You'd have a memorial, the memorial set up. You can go down there. In
Union
between,
Station.
Union Station Memorial, and then nothing in between. I mean, it really was nothing. I remember coming down for an event. You could walk down Main Street middle of the day, wouldn't see a person.
Yeah,
it wasn't a thing. And then after going to other cities and seeing what they've done, so this is like, I'm reading these studies and I'm like, what they're trying to do is tell me my lying eyes are not telling me what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. They literally say that in these studies. We went to just this year alone, I went to Minnesota and checked out. Took my son to a NBA game and the baseball game out there for a weekend, and then me and my wife went to Denver. Mm-hmm. Went out to a show out there, and both those cities have moved downtown baseball. Mm-hmm. Downtown baseball absolutely turned around the downtown Denver area. I mean, it was like we left going, if we could even do that, even half as cool as this, holy shit! Because Denver, they do have mountains. They do have tons of tourism. So to get people to go downtown and not to the outdoors that they're known for, you got to be doing something right.
Yeah.
And we went around there. It was amazing. And in this study, it tried saying, well, no. The development down in Lodo, as they call it, that was actually predated the stadium development. I'm like, it was all kind of hand in hand. It all happened within a few years. It does take time to develop and grow out. It doesn't happen overnight. But getting them to go down there, we saw restaurants, hotels, all kinds of new stuff right down by the stadium, the whole district area. Mm-hmm. The bars were just packed. I mean, thousands out there. I'm like, holy cow, this is insane. And it was coming in an area that my mom's older cousin in their 80s said, this was a dangerous part of town. I'm from here. We have a building in this area. It was awful until the stadium came.
Right.
So it does bring on a development, and it's part of the studies where they also just don't do justice. What they should do is it's not just, so one, I talked about how much are you getting? Why are they, instead of saying just stadiums are bad, even that Neil guy from the Field of Schemes said, I don't think anybody's saying that all subsidies are bad. I go, well, they're definitely saying that. Mm-hmm. He goes, why? We don't actually say that. It's how much. And I go, exactly. Why is not more time saying, and hey, this is what the area is actually going to generate? That would actually be a useful bit of information. Mm-hmm. If they would say, you know what, you're asking for this much. This is really what you could see.
Yeah.
The other thing they don't,
because they have to go over all factors, right? Because we don't know how long these teams are going to be winning for. We don't know how much money that the city is going to end up getting back. All this stuff.
There's variables.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So like I have a couple of these studies right here, and
sure.
we'll go over some of them. So the Las Vegas Raiders is one of them. They got $750 million in public funds, hotel tax revenue. The controversy was one of the largest stadium subsidies in U.S. history. Critics argued it would create seasonal jobs while benefiting billionaire team owners. Economists predicted little economic benefit, yet cities and states sold it as a game changer for Vegas tourism. The outcome, Vegas still has budget issues. Surrounding development has been slow and uneven. Now, this is a fairly newer stadium, but...
yes, I've been out there, not to a game in there, been to Vegas. Well, there's a few things about, even on that study, this is what this does all over the place in these studies too. When you read in there, forget the stadiums. Vegas has been in trouble in general tourism these last few years. B, what happened just a few years ago?
COVID.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you take a place that...
These are the other factors that they're not taking consideration.
Factors.
But these are also factors that the teams aren't taking into consideration as well. That these things could possibly happen, which is going to affect the money that's going to be given back to the city for the subsidies that we're given. Absolutely.
And the argument I'd agree with you on, it is a little bit of, there's two worlds. It's, should we do this? And that's more the libertarian point of view of, is it right to do? That's one argument. Right. But whether it's worth it, it's like any other business. Yeah. Is it guaranteed success? No. Right. Does every city, if you put it here, like even in our own city, this is where the other studies could do better. Right. Is, hey, do the studies and bring out, obviously, by default, it can be proven whether the Royals would do financially better for our city if it was downtown or in Truman Sports Complex. It's not going to be the exact amount, so by default, one of them's got to be better, right?
Yeah, and my apologies. I need to stick to the more of the
no, you're fine. No,
generating revenue for the city. That's what we need to stick to.
But in general, the principle is fine too.
Right, and we've established that, and I do appreciate your understanding of that. Here's another one: New York Yankees over $1 billion in tax-exempt bonds and infrastructure costs. The Bronx neighborhood saw no major economic uplift. Promised parks were delayed or shrunk. The stadium replaced public parkland and pushed out local recreation without compensation. The outcome was Bronx remains one of the NYC's poorest boroughs with few of the promised economic spillover. So that's what people are worried about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that can be a fair argument. And that's where the studies can do a better job. Instead of just blanket statements saying don't do it, look into some of the details. But even that, though, of the Bronx, only thing I've ever heard about the Bronx lately is, it's so gentrified and so nice now. Right. That's literally what I hear.
These are so depending on which street you're on, And
so New York's a different animal too. And I think every city individually should look at their own city.
Like, what about the Marlins? Because you did bring up Miami, didn't you?
Yes. I think the Marlins is a perfect example.
So they had $500 million in public funding. The deal was signed behind closed doors with limited public input. Team ownership flipped the team for profit shortly after the stadium was completed. Residents were stuck with debt for decades and attendance has remained low. Widely regarded as one of the worst public sports deals in U.S. history.
Because I think they did a poor executed job. This still always comes down to execution.
What do you think were the other factors?
It's Miami. There's so much to do down there. I've been down to my buddy. He lives right there in Hollywood. We go down, and I'm like, there's so much to do out there.
So much competition.
So much competition down there. When you're down there, it's super hot. They built an indoor stadium. People, unless their team is winning.
What are the Marlins? Are those in baseball?
Baseball in Miami. Okay. So, yeah.
Do they have another baseball team in Miami?
No.
So what would be the other competing factors?
Other entertainment factors in that regards. I think every city can be different. It's how it's executed and where it's at.
Could you say power and light could be a competing factor?
No. Here's why I'll say. I think it's.
So you think Miami's a much larger? I mean, I've never been to Miami.
Oh yeah, so it's a super large city. It's a very international city. Big thing, an obvious factor from a fandom point of view. If you go to like a Dolphins game down there, the stadium is filled with opposing teams' fans because they all move there. They go, I kind of like the Dolphins, but I'm a Jets fan. We moved here from New York. It's a retirement place. It's a retirement place. It's a move. It's a destination place, not a home. Right. And so to say that it could never be done poorly, no, I would never say that. I think there absolutely can be done poorly. I think each city should look at it going, like, if you're Chicago right now, they're talking about doing a big investment. I think Chicago would be wise to say, piss off, we're not going to do this because Chicago is a major, major metro. They have one football team. they're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
People want to be in Chicago. When Kroenke took the Rams from St. Louis back to LA, he wanted to be in LA because it's the biggest market in the world practically.
How are they doing over there?
I think they're doing, as far as I
I
know,
don't
okay.
know.
It was privately done, number one. So
Was it?
Yeah, so he used his billions. It would be great. Would I love it tomorrow if Clark Hunt came out and said, yeah, we got this one? Would love it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what he does, in my opinion, he has the president of the Chiefs, Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say do his dirty work, but he runs the business.
Right.
Clark is the 10,000-foot face man.
Yeah, he's the face.
He's not in there doing the day-to-day.
He's carrying the trophy.
Yeah, he shows up and we win them Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day operation, they do have a guy that's in charge of running a business.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to look at, hey, are we making money? That's their point. And that's where I understand.
Where did they get money from?
Who,
Do you know
Hunts?
the history behind the Hunts?
Oil. Big oil. Oil.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are they even from Kansas City?
No, from Dallas.
Oh.
And so,
which is where the Chiefs
originated from. The Texans.
originated from.
So they were down there. He brought him up here. Some people are like, oh, the Chiefs will never leave. Of course they would. Clark's daddy took him for a more profitable place to Kansas City at the time. They expanded, moved it here. So yeah, could he do it? Will he do it? I don't think so, but could he?
I wonder why they came to Kansas City out of all places.
I knew a lot more of the history back not too long ago. But
it's hard to remember.
It is, but it's way back. I mean, they came here. We're playing at Municipal. And that's the other thing is a lot of states will say, oh, well, we used to have downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to the Truman Sports Complex. Why do we want to go back downtown? Well, things change.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I was looking up some of the history of some of the sports teams here. Like you said, I can't remember. It was a couple of days ago when I was looking at it, but there were some different names I've never even heard of the sports teams that we've had. I was like, whoa, I didn't know. Back in the 60s and 50s.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I was going to be entertained but disappointed was the amount of teams. I think Missouri has almost lost the most professional teams of any state.
Really?
We had my son, and this is what I was kind of joking with you about, and I liked your point. It was funny, but I was like, my son does not go, oh, Dad, I'm really glad we had a lower percentage sales tax back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because it's like, he loves the NBA. He's like, we don't have the Kings. We used to have the Sacramento Kings were here. They were the Kansas City Kings. We had an NHL team, the Scouts. We had the multiple baseball teams. We had the A's that became Oakland. That's now Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Teams do leave.
Right.
And if you've got one of the franchises, it is a monopoly. Is it right? No. Like, they don't just go, hey, baseball's a cool thing or NBA is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every city gets one, like a McDonald's. We're just going to open one. They limit it. Is that right? Probably not, but it is what it is. Now, what you're saying about would Sprint Center take away from the entertainment? Here's where I'd say absolutely not. It does make a big difference about execution and where it's done. If they moved into the East Village, could it work? Yeah, I would have liked it better than not. But
what's in the East Village? Nothing.
It's parking
So
lots.
why wouldn't they want to do it there?
And here's why I'm glad they're not going to do it there.
Uh-huh.
And this is kind of my growing up, my background, my just baseline opinion.
Uh-huh.
If you go there, the average person, I don't know, I can't speak for Blue Springs. I can't speak for the Northland. But I can tell you in Johnson County, they have no idea where anything downtown is. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They might get you to the Union Station.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit biased. There's always an exception. If you're that exception, fine. But in general, they don't go downtown unless it's for now Power and Light, Union Station type stuff, Crown Center. That's it.
Right.
If you put in East Village, people would go there and they would, after the game, get the heck out of Dodge.
Where's the East Village block?
It's basically 12th and it's kind of on the 12th and Cherry. It's just on maybe about a few blocks.
From Children's Mercy, is it over there?
A little bit further north. It's kind of more near the courthouse, City Hall.
Oh, okay.
That spot over there.
Okay.
And people have said, oh, we want to develop that area. I go, I agree. Like, if that was our only choice, I think it eventually maybe could, but it's too far away.
I mean, we have phones and GPS.
The thing is we want an area where people would congregate before, after. If you look at what Cincinnati's done, they've got a downtown area what would be similar to ours. Mm-hmm. It is just packed with people, and it creates that synergy effect that can happen if it's done right.
Right.
If you do it like St. Louis is just on the outskirts. Mm-hmm. Minnesota has it just on the outskirts of downtown. It doesn't do as well. Mm-hmm. When you put it where it's smack down in the middle, like in Denver, it was wild.
It helps out everything around it.
Everything around it benefits because you get people there. Like, it was about a month ago. We went out when the Cardinals were in town. There was sold out game played. So before that game, me and my wife, we went to dinner down in the Crossroads. Mm-hmm. It was beyond dead. There might have been 5 people there. We went back around into Washington Square Park, which is one of the proposed areas that could be done. Mm-hmm. Nobody was there. I mean, it was desolate. 30,000 plus people at the game. If it was actually held at Washington Square Park, instead of everyone spending all their money inside of the game, pre-gaming and all of that, post-game and just going home, we could have had all those people right here in our downtown spending money at restaurants, bars, crossroads. There was First Fridays going on. They could have been out and been like, hey, I'm going to go see these different things happening on here. And then people can go, oh, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
You combine that with the streetcar that's coming on that's going to go from River Market all the way down to now UMKC, the Plaza, Westport. It will create that effect of, oh, we've expanded our city.
Do you think even, you remember the Royals when they were just doing horrible tickets? You couldn't give away tickets at that time.
No.
Do you think, though, being in downtown, people would still go to catch a game just for the experience, even if we were a losing team?
Here's where I'd say
yes. Because going to where they're at now,
exactly.
I mean, there's nothing really, there's a Taco Bell.
Here's where I'll say yes. Looking at Denver, they're having a season right now that is literally the worst, might be one of the worst in history of the whole baseball. They are the worst. They have so much to do, like I said, in Denver. When we went to a game, they put 5,000 more people in than we did that night. It was happening. Young people everywhere. They had an NBA game. The Nuggets were playing at the exact same time. You'd think, well, the Nuggets are competing. The mountains are there. All this stuff. Place was packed. Why? Because it was right downtown. They made it an entertainment area. They made it like a destination. Cool spot to be. So can it be done if executed right? Yeah.
Right.
The fans wish their team, the owners put more money into the team to win? Yeah. Our friends that were there were going, family said, yeah. Our owner's annoying because
they don't.
They had a terrible team. They put no money into the players. So that is a legitimate
I feel like
criticism.
some of their contracts are insane. Like even Patrick Mahomes. I mean, his contract's insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
And that's a whole salary.
I guess there's some other. Some teams do. I guess some teams don't. Right.
Well, it's depending on, and that's also
because they said a majority of the revenue that comes from those stadiums is coaches, players, and executives. That's where the money mainly goes to.
Definitely. And here's another one of Patrick's arguments, which there's a lot of contradictory statements that are made that he said that are also in these studies. Is one of the arguments which the Royals present, we need to have this entertainment district. That's what teams like Atlanta's done and others have done because it brings revenue in. It helps us be competitive because we don't sell enough seats. Our TV deals aren't as big,
Which you're right, because are the Royals even on TV anymore?
They have to get the what is it on? I have it. Yes, FanDuel. I pay for the membership.
Why do they do that shit?
It was, and I agree. I think, and people have asked them that they agreed to bad deals is what it was when they had.
But for in Kansas City,
yes,
not to give your viewer or your fans,
it was a bad deal.
I mean, because I get pissed off about UFC. I got to buy the fucking
ESPN
part of it
package,
and
they made the deals right during the time when the people cutting cords. I cut the cord, and
like with cable companies.
Yes, so it's still on cable. If you have a cable, you were getting the games, but everyone got the cord. So
yeah, but it should be on local TV. Isn't that? And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't every team don't they locally you can access that on your local channels, or is that no?
They got rid of that. It used to be similar to that.
When did that all change?
Around 2017, 18.
Oh, really?
Somewhere around there, because that's what made some of the excitement with the Royals. They were on 38. Everyone was watching every night. Everyone had it. Was free entertainment, which is another point I would bring up when people talk about, I can't afford to go to a game. This is rich people stuff, whatever.
Right.
I had a lot of free entertainment for a long time, just turning on the game.
Right.
So yes, fix that. Let it so we can watch, because then we'll spend more to be vested in it.
Did they say anything of why they did that?
I think it really was. They all signed TV deals, and there was big deals going. Some cities, bigger metros, they signed bigger deals.
They weren't making enough probably on ads and
And so they've openly said we are trying. They know about the stupid deal. The deal was signed before.
How long are they locked in?
I don't think it's much longer. I do. I'll say it. I'll be wrong. I think, but it was less than a couple years, and they will do something different.
Hopefully.
But what I was saying about where they're making money on these entertainment districts. So if they're really, because Patrick, one of the statements he said when he was talking with you was, the stadiums are just a ruse. They want to own all the stuff around it too. That's where they make the real money. So my thought is, okay, they're making the real money there. Fine. Well, they don't own every restaurant, bar, and hotel around there. So on one hand, you're saying they don't bring revenue in. On the other, you're saying that's the most important thing is all the revenue around it. Well, which is it? I mean,
but have you looked into the things that are owned, like the establishments that are owned around that area? Could there possibly be some of them that they do?
Sure. I think that's their point. I think that's why, and I think Legends may still have a shot at going there into Kansas because it's limited space. But do I think they'll do something?
No, I'm saying like these establishments that are downtown, is there a possible kickback? And that's why they want to put it downtown.
Is who getting a kickback, are you saying?
Whoever's invested in those restaurants, hotels, bars, all that stuff.
Possibly.
Is there possibly some of the staff for the Royals have ties to some of these establishments?
Maybe, but a lot of these restaurants and places have been there a long time.
I don't know.
I don't 100%
because I've heard,
but
like we discussed this too, kickbacks to the,
sure.
The general area. Patrick, apparently, I can't remember if he said that in the podcast. He may have. It's been some time since we recorded that, but I could see that being benefiting. You know what I mean? These backdoor deals with these other business owners. Hey, and even if none of the Royals executives own anything around that area, maybe they don't, maybe they do, but if they didn't, but they have friends. I mean, we try to help each other out.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
I mean, is it possible? Sure.
And that's nothing illegal, right?
Nothing illegal.
I mean, yeah.
Is it possible? Sure. But I think the more likely scenario is they would, just like in Atlanta, they would actually build their own brand new district type stuff. I think ideally they would love their own power and light, their own bars, their own hotels that they actually own. Like right now, down a block from Washington Square Park is like Home 2. Could they buy them out, destroy them, build a big hotel? Maybe. But I guarantee that I don't believe that hotel is
the
owned.
only reason I say that, and call me a conspiracy theorist, but I've got some people that write into the show and kind of give me that work in certain areas that maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Sure. Take it for what it is. But like even some of the individuals that we discussed that were kind of going around and parading the vote yes on April whatever what was that last year? You said it was. I've heard of incentives being given to them for pushing this, some of these council members that were pushing it, going on to podcasts, going on to radio shows and pushing it.
I think that's totally possible.
So,
absolutely.
It probably is happening.
Yeah. I think absolutely they would try to have, lobby to get people on board for sure. Absolutely.
Because we've seen guys like Manny Abarca.
He's everywhere.
He's
everywhere.
He's everywhere now.
During the vote, he was the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, was he being paid? Possibly. I think that would have been a smart move. I think it would have been a smart move to lobby them. I think it would have been a smarter move to lobby the local businesses that were against them.
Yeah, because, it's just some of these guys, they discuss these, I'm for the people. And then, not to go back on the, subsidy route again, but it's like, how are you endorsing that? And then and let's discuss this too. Telling people that there's going to not be any tax increase when we found out that wasn't true at all.
The thing was so both sides were absolutely
because there was though,
but there wasn't. But there was.
Okay,
here's how it went.
Okay,
and this is where both sides. It was all that was salesmanship and politics in the works because the side that's on the yes side saying no new taxes essentially they weren't lying. Because that 3/8 cent sales tax was the exact same sales tax that had been in place since 06.
But they were going to extend it.
Yes, it was extending it. So one person's point of view, which would have been mine, would have said, great deal. I'm already paying 0.38. I don't notice it. I go out quite a bit.
Right.
I get my bill, I pay it and go, dang, it is what it is, on your way. And also in total, I think 3/8 cents, you'd have to, I think if you said you spent all like $40,000 or $50,000 of income into Jackson County, even on that, it did not come out to an extreme. It was like $100, $80. You fact check me on the math, but either way, most people were not spending this a very nominal amount. Now, the new tax, and so that's why they're saying, "Oh, it's no new tax," because it's the same one extended.
And my only argument is if we keep pushing the goalpost on that, and we keep just allowing these small taxes.
Small tax.
It adds up over time.
Now, let me tell you about what the new tax is, and I've seen so many people butcher this one because I think in the studies, and the reason why they're wrong, and why this one makes most sense, when I said that, hey, it was a regressive tax that got pushed down, I see their argument. If you're somebody that's making $1 million a year and you're spending money and you got that little tax, you might not care. And if you made minimum wage, you're like, dang, that hits me more than you. It's regressive.
Right.
But I agree with this new tax. And so let's take your.
Some ice?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So take the, you're just in tax in general right now, your sales tax in Kansas or in Missouri. You have a percentage of it. I think I looked it up. It was like 4 or so percent was to the state. Another 3 or 4% was to the city. That 3/8 sales tax that goes until 2031, that goes to fund the teams. Mm-hmm. When they passed this new, or they have the option to pass in Missouri. That's what they did. I agree with what you're saying. I'll explain why I heard you talking, Christina, on 2 a.m. So here's an argument I'll also give on that.
Fill me in, because I want to know why the hell they're doing shit
like
that. Well,
it was done. It was our representative government doing what they do. What they did, I mean, very specifically why they did it then, and I'll give Kehoe some credit, and I'll also reverse conspiracy theory you. Yeah. Is if these are bad deals, right? Let's go for that argument's sake. They're bad deals. Why would a heavily conservative Republican governor of Missouri and a very liberal Democratic mayor be so much on the same page of this? The governor is openly not a Royals fan first. He's openly said they're my second favorite team. He's clearly St. Louis leaning. He's in Jeff City. He's from the middle of Missouri. He had to use a lot of capital, a lot of political capital to get this done. Because when they went in there, the House in Missouri passed it easy. I had people come and go, oh, it's a done deal. I go, you don't pay attention much. I go, this got held up in the Senate in Missouri. So then they go, are we dead? No, special session. Okay, so they're going to bring everyone back together to talk about this. So what he had to do, his goal was to get the stadium thing passed. Mm-hmm. He didn't have the votes. And when we went into the special session, he did not have the votes. So he had to get a collection of, I need 18 of these people to say yes. He had to turn people. So he had some conservatives that were the Freedom Caucus going, hell no, we're against taxes. We will not agree to this unless you do something about property tax. Mm. He had other people saying, we need relief about this tax. Other people were like, no, we need to build these hospitals in South St. Louis because we're not getting nothing from this. So he went in there, and that's why all day during that day, he was behind back closed doors. Hey, what do you need? What do you need? There was a guy,
which ultimately led it to be at 2 a.m.
Yes, because they didn't even start that night until about 9 p.m. Mm-hmm. So then when they did, there was a guy, a Senate guy, I think it was Nicholas. I'm getting that wrong, but he's from Missouri. He was pushing for Jackson County property tax relief. He's like, you're not getting my vote without that. Mm-hmm. After it was done, they asked him, they didn't do it for him. They asked, hey, why didn't he get that done? And he goes, the quote I heard was, oh, another guy sold cheaper, meaning he said, hey, if you give me this is all I want for my deal. Kehoe could say, okay, we'll get you. We got 18 votes. Let's go vote now. So 2 a.m., got it done, goes back to the state, passes. But that's my question is, why was Kehoe so dead set on passing this, using so much political capital? If it's a bad deal for the state, he could have said, let's let Kansas do this thing. Mm-hmm. They're stupid. They voted saying yes. They've already approved the money. We get all those benefits. He's like, no. He gets the numbers. He sees it. He can see that this would be bad for the state because this new tax that they did pass, I heard a lot of argument of St. Louis people especially going, my taxes aren't going to pay for your stadium. And, it was a very divided state situation. If you looked at the vote, heavily middle and then to Kansas City passed, not many votes on the St. Louis side. And the ironic part is St. Louis, A, could benefit from this thing they passed. But B, what happened was the way they're funding it is the way Kansas is funding it. Mm-hmm. And has, I would call it, because it is what it is, it's a user tax. So people are saying, well, if you like the Chiefs so much, you pay for it. You like the Royals so much, you pay for it. Well, they kind of did. Mm-hmm. Because what they did in that district, they call it a stadium district area. The map could get fuzzy. So that's where you got to hold them to what they're doing. But they carve out a section and say everything spent in this area is going to go fund it. So it's not somebody in St. Louis's property tax. It's not, your income tax you're paying. It is when you spend money in this district, there is a 4% that went to the state. Now it's going to fund the stadium. There's also, and this expect this to happen, Kansas City might, Q keeps talking about, we can pass and help fund as well through the same mechanism because that 4% of the city can also be directed. And an argument that even so it's against taxes, you could say, well, at least that money that I'm spending, it isn't going to the Jeff City. At least it's going to someone I like for once.
Something here local.
Yeah. So that'd be my argument.
But would that be taken away from something else?
Correct. That's the counter argument.
Because I've heard it's taken away from public, what is it called? like police and fire. That
that's the
type of
counter
stuff.
argument, of course. It's now we have the whole
what is that called? Public
works,
something like that. I can't remember what.
But that is the argument, though. It's fundamental, and that's kind of the whole moving money from one hand to the other is it's just an illusion. But here's where once again it's not an illusion. You lose all of that money if they go Kansas passed this deal. We lose all of that. Period. All the side benefits, everything if they go over there. So that is some of the argument.
Damn it, Kansas!
It is.
Shut the fuck up, Kansas.
It really was.
Stay over there.
It really was Kansas that totally. Now the rumors were Nashville and Salt Lake and all those things, maybe, but no, Kansas is 100% who really changed the leverage, and it should have been an open secret that was going to happen.
Was there anybody else like in that whole deal too that was like, hey, come over here?
Oh, of course, there was definitely talks. I
heard Tennessee,
Missouri said there was legitimate. The Senate said. Recently, there's been real talk that Nashville was making legitimate offers. They claim they were legitimate. Real? I don't know. But
I thought Tennessee has a team.
They have a football team. They don't have a baseball team.
Oh, they were going after the Royal. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the argument is the money would get moved out.
This is what gets so confusing because even myself, I start talking about it and I forget, oh shit, hold on, that's Royals. Like, because they're both, it's like both coming at us.
Absolutely.
Huge deals from both.
Absolutely.
It's like, man, can we just focus on one, guys? You know?
Well, and they kind of are now because
when is the lease up for the Royals?
They're both 2031.
Okay.
They're both 2031.
Well, at least they do that. At least they keep
in benefit of our teams in our city of not being stupid with our money. So in these studies, they were talking about the average city or stadium, I should say, gets changed every 30 years. They're saying the lifespan back in the day when these were built had such a longer lifespan. We're playing will be 50, 60-year-old stadiums. By the time 2031 rolls, these opened in like 73. So we've done even with the renovation was done in 06. So come 2031.
They had a smaller renovation though, didn't they?
Yes, it wasn't like insane.
No, not to that. But we had one recently, right?
Maybe.
Didn't they add like a newer suites and the Super Bowl thing?
They've done definitely literal.
But was that all privately funded?
I couldn't tell you on that explicitly, but they were minor renovation. The major renovation where they added the whole concourse and the club level at Arrowhead. They added the outfield change to Kaufman. That was in 06. But even that, though, will be 25 years old when the stadium lease would expire.
Right.
So if they're saying whole stadiums don't go more than 30 years, our renovation's getting us almost 30 years. That's actually, so we've been very reasonable with the way we've spent our money. I mean, when it comes to sporting. Yeah, I think in general, we built a stadiums. Both of those came during what I would call, some call them the cookie cutter area. I call them the concrete area because the concrete of death. Was it concrete cancer or whatever?
Yeah, I heard
regardless.
Yeah.
There's not another stadium built in that era that still exists. Oakland was the last one, which they have torn down. They're gone. But Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Philly, St. Louis, all those cities all had the same circular dual setup. Now we have this. Now, one interesting thing I was emailing that Neil guy about today at the Field of Schemes. One interesting argument they make in these studies is, well, the more subsidies we give, they call it gold plating. We're spending more money on these stadiums per subsidy spend, implying that, you get free money. I get it. It's the idea of you getting free money. They're going to go nuts. But I looked into the graph. I'm like, that's not, I'm reading the graph. It's a very simple bar graph. And it showed total stadium cost on average and public subsidy. So in 2000s, when they were built, they had, actually back in the 60s, it was 100% publicly financed. The owners did
I was just looking at that right now in my notes. Yeah,
I'm like going, this is a good thing. So we've moved to where they are putting some of their own money, but inflation adjusted from 2000 to now, they're spending less money from the public sector.
Yeah,
and more privately. And I look at it this way: if they want to go spend $1.5 billion into our city, it's not like people imply like, we're giving billionaires money. It's not like we're handing them the money into their own pocket. Those stadiums are going to people in our town to construct it, the materials for it, everything around it to get it up. It's not like they're going, thanks for the cool bill.
Yeah, that's one thing I've seen. It said, as stadiums and arenas have grown more elaborate and construction costs have skyrocketed. However, the share of costs covered by the public funds has been decreasing from close to 100% in the 1970s to an estimated medium share of 44.2% in the 2010s.
Yeah, I think that's a good trend.
Yeah.
It's a mutual partnership, not just
so
the
at one
cities.
point it was all publicly funded.
Now, granted, was the total cost, was it, you're doing smaller, not as magnificent palaces? Right. Definitely. But still, sports has so much more money just even now.
When I had seen that today, when I was like, man, that I can't
that's a good thing.
Knock that. Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah. And the gold plating theory, I'm like, well, if they're going to invest in whatever they're doing in these billion-dollar stadiums, it is going to the construction companies, the architects. And one thing in the study, which I've asked, and I have not gotten a concrete answer because on the surface, this is what is said. And I'm like, anybody, you don't have to be an economist or anything to understand that this doesn't make sense. It tried referencing St. Louis I think they said in the 90s, they built 2 different stadium and arena.
The Busch Stadium or you're talking about the Busch Stadium downtown?
I believe so.
Is the area around the stadium still struggles with crime and business turnover? Some exceptions. Oh, no, I don't think I have that one actually.
What I was meaning though not about regarding around the stadium, but what the construction part. So one of the arguments is, this doesn't produce construction jobs. These are sold as we're going to increase jobs. And where I would argue against that is, well, and this is a whole different argument, a place you can argue, but when Biden passed the Build Back Better bill, it was done with the point of shovel-ready job. Bill? It was shovel-ready stuff we need because the idea is more people are going to be working in these fields. They're saying in the St. Louis deal, well, we looked at these studies and how we judged that the construction project meant no big deal. It didn't help at all was because employment numbers were stagnant during the years they built these stadiums. And the conclusion it said was, that just proves that they are switching one job for another, which I'm going, that makes no sense. Because if you're in construction, you're always trying to get more jobs.
Right.
It just takes hiring more people.
And with bigger projects, you have to employ more people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so
how many of these people are local? How many of them are out of state?
That should be part of these contracts. That's the whole thing
Is it?
I don't know. Every city, I'm sure, does a different contract, but that should absolutely be.
I'm sure there's some small print, though. If you can't provide the force, then it's going to have to be brought out of state.
Possibly. Yeah. It could be in there. I know.
What are we all discussing right now? The shortage in labor.
Absolutely. My wife deals with that all the time when it comes to when she's on their projects. They have all these incentives to do local and women-owned and minority and all these things.
Oh, yeah, the participation.
But if you can't get it, then they do have to go outside.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I remember one time, because I was a PM for about 4 years. I'm actually thinking about getting back into it. Some of these are like 90% minority participation, which is so difficult to meet. And a lot of the times what's going on, man, they're doing some weird, I don't want to put anybody out there. But there's some fucked up stuff going on. There's some,
my buddy always says,
I know this person, but I'm going to sub it to you and sub it to you.
My buddy goes, some of the stuff in there where it's, I totally disagree with that whole thing of it. But he goes, well, guess I'm gay now. He's like, I'm going to go get these jobs. Exactly. He's like, I will go get them because prove I'm not kind of thing. He's like, that's what it takes.
Or put your wife as the president, or the person. We'll make her the president of the company, so it's considered WMBE and all this weird stuff. There's ways to skirt around.
There is. Like we have a fraternity brother of mine. He's he's just branched off his own deal. His wife is black. He's white. We were like, you've got the jackpot, man. You need to make her the president. And he's like, we don't want to win jobs that way. And I was like, I can respect that.
I respect that.
But I'm like, they're teed up for you, man.
But then again, no one else is like, there's so many things when it comes to like minority businesses, man, that it's just, you can't find very many. And then you can't find really good ones. You know what I mean? Because it's difficult. There's not much to pick from. I don't know if it's just like not helping enough on the education side of things. Because I've worked for a couple of them. And man, I mean, to get them on the page of understanding how to, one, bid these jobs correctly. And I'm not saying it's just minority businesses. I'm sure there's other just regular construction companies that have the same issues. But small businesses in general, which are going to be a lot of, minority. I don't know too many big minority-owned businesses in construction. I'm sure there's like the Diaz, I think it's Diaz. I think they're pretty big. But But yeah, man, it's just, I think the education factor on how to bid these jobs, how to get the right staffing for these jobs, the proper PPE, all the going through the entire spec book correctly. I mean, there's just a lot of things when it comes to these big jobs. And, unfortunately, a lot of people will, tell you they're having a hard time finding the people that can meet those requirements.
They really are. I mean, it's a thing. I think there's good things, some definite bad things about the administration that's going to come in, removing DEI of a lot of things.
Yeah. And also, you're right. Because I understand that you want like minority participation. I admire that. But I'm a free market guy. So it's it's almost like that affirmative action thing. Yes. It's like, are you picking this individual because it's almost in the sense of racism?
It is.
A counter. You know what I mean? Like in a weird way.
Free market. I'm with you.
Because they're looking at it as like, it's racist because we're not getting jobs. But then it's like, but then the other side of it, we're only picking you because you are of this race. So, it can be like that. I'm more of who can get the job done right.
Who can get the job? It's usually who can get the job done right. Yeah. Who bids the most aggressive. It's cost, effectiveness, maybe.
And that's another thing too, when it comes to cost, is like, who's monitoring this stuff? Because when you have if you're given these subsidies, and I don't know how it's all broken down. So please, anybody who's watching, feel free to contact me and break it down.
I will.
But like, I've seen some of these, like you get a job, like a government job. Mm-hmm. We all know everyone's going to bid high on those jobs because they kind of have a big budget.
I'll jump into this full 2 feet.
Please.
So this is interesting.
Because I've seen it personally. I've been on some of these jobs. I've seen it. And I'm like, that doesn't look like it costs $3.2 million. Where the fuck?
So I'll explain a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten a firsthand seat at the table to learn some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So my wife, she'll hate me for some of this stuff.
Oh, don't point her out too much.
No, she's, believe me.
Where she works and all that.
No. After the last 6 months, believe me, she is like, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. She's with I'm the one that talked her into this. So she has been in the private industry as an architect for many years. I mean, they work just ridiculously hard. And I was like, she had an opportunity to go work with the feds, with the GSA. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you should do that. Make less money, but the hours are better. You're not in the private sector works them like a dog.
Yeah.
So she went in there and I'm like, so the Doge, all this stuff, I've had literally a first seat watching all this. So on the surface, in the big picture, I'm with you. I think most people's opinion is government buildings spend so much stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
So her job actually is to be that watchdog.
Mm-hmm.
Her job.
Oh, that's good.
The GSA, the whole point of the GSA is a government watchdog. Prior to the GSA, it really was a free-for-all. That's where you get the senators getting these restrooms in their offices that are, $100,000, the crazy amount.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
So they put the GSA
the White House doing renovations that cost millions of dollars. And you're like, what?
So her job is to protect our tax dollars. And sometimes I'm like, you do it a little too well. She stresses out. She's like, oh, this construction company or that one is trying to, run up the money. And I'm
tell
like,
her, said, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
we all thank you.
She really does her job. Yeah. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, hey, well, they're a local company. So if anybody's going to hose us, at least that's less money going to I don't know, California or something. It's staying here.
Right.
But that is their job. And they all take it very seriously. They have methods and procedures that they have to own up to. It's not watched. So I've gotten to watch that. Okay, these aren't free-for-alls, but why is it so expensive? Yeah, a lot of the stuff you're talking about. We have to hire these firms. We have to do way more checks and balances of looking at who we're using, how it's done.
The regulations
do run up the cost.
Over-regulated.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that is a lot of it. But her job is to save our tax dollars. Mm-hmm. So when they did Doge, it was interesting because I was like, I don't think, we can go into the whole Doge conversation anytime you want on there because it was needed. But everyone that was for Doge should be still pissed.
Why?
Because we had an opportunity. And so far, it's been, in my opinion, just observing, overall done pretty piss poor.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
I think you had an opportunity, like a real, might be a once in our generation opportunity to go do some real slashing.
Right.
But where it's done, instead of this haphazard bullshit, I think some of the slashing was a little bit vendetta based. It was a little bit some of the stuff was on its surface kind of stupid. Mm-hmm.
And they made a lot of mistakes cutting things that we actually needed.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and I've seen some stuff that they've cut and have to rehire. Mm-hmm. The morale's gone to shit. And in general, the general government worker that I've seen and witnessed, and it's kind of been consistent, they do take, the one thing they do have, yes, they do have good job security. But the environment they've worked in, they do work hard. Mm-hmm. They're very passionate about what they're doing.
Right.
They're not just trying to waste our money in general. And so.
But we can't speak for 100%.
Absolutely not. But in general, I've seen more examples of exceptions to the rule.
Right.
And even in general on the 5, the whole conversation I was hearing and I was entertained by, the 5 point email.
Mm-hmm.
I understand and agree with that argument of what's your problem? It's just an email, right? Mm-hmm. But here's where I'm like, no, it was done so stupidly. Mm-hmm. If you're the Doge coming in going, hey, I got these grand plans. Like, let's say you hire a new CEO to run things. What's your great idea? Well, listen to this. They're going to email. They're going to say 5 things of what they did. Mm-hmm. That's all you got?
Yeah.
Because if I'm a screw around worker that is coasting the system, pretty sure even ChatGPT can come up with 5 things I did this week.
Right.
And I just sit on Monday. Okay, but week's done. Who's checking this? Is Elon, was he checking?
Who's checking these mass emails?
Yeah, who's checking these mass emails?
Yeah.
People are writing dumb shit. And they already do have managers that they report to.
That's where I thought it should have been structured better. Not so much. Man, I don't know. Was it supposed to be to Doge itself, or was it supposed to be to their superior?
Say again?
Like the emails.
The emails are going right. It wasn't on their superior, but those things do just go to. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, no, it does go to Doge itself because
I do believe in accountability.
Absolutely.
And we all know that when discussing government jobs, this is why everyone go to usajobs.gov, yes. Go find you a good job. It's going to be a job security and all this stuff, which
yes.
I do, because like you said, on the private side, the reason why a lot of people are getting away from it is because they work you like a fucking dog, you know, and there's an issue on the private side that needs to be discussed. I'm all for the private sector, but I'm also for discussing the bads about it as well. We can't just say, oh, yeah, everything private's good. It's not. Yeah, it's not. And on the federal side as well, when it comes to government jobs, it's great, but it's also bad as well. Absolutely. So, and in Kansas, what worries me the most is Kansas City the federal government being one of the largest employers in Kansas City. That's concerning to
Absolutely.
me. Why is that? How much money, like, what does that cost? You know, what are you doing? Do we need all of these people to run these jobs, or can we start, putting some of this work on other people, not to overwork them?
No.
You know,
but they do have places. They actually have done these studies, but they've done the actual research and, hey, here's where we can cut. They didn't take any of these things. Like, because I've asked her when, because I was concerned, not that she would have a job. She's got offers coming into the private sector left and right.
I bet, yeah.
But she's like, we have no idea what's going on. Her managers, nobody had any clue of who's doing what. They still really don't know. Mm-hmm. And so some of that, I'm like, they brought people from the outside in that didn't know what they were doing. They cut groups of people. It was basically, I think, my opinion. I don't know these. You know these for opinions?
I don't think very many people got cut, though, here in Kansas City.
No,
at least.
Not
I think it was like 100 people or something like that from the IRS or something
IRS
like that?
had different, I couldn't quote you numbers. I know IRS had cuts.
Sorry, I don't really care much for you, the IRS.
No.
Sorry.
But here's where you could, though.
I'm not going to say there's not good people in there.
No,
I'm not,
people,
but,
though.
The IRS in general.
Here's where, the argument's been, those, there are auditors there. But the same, I'm waiting on my tax return still. Mm-hmm. Like, pretty significant one. I'm like, hey, get on it. So if there's less people, something's not happening. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're kind of seeing in general. And all the departments is, you get rid of everyone, we need some people to actually function. So I think the whole Doge thing should have just been done better. Like, nobody's saying that we need to have this bloated government. And here's where I know it was all kind of, in my opinion, bullshit. Mm-hmm. And this is what Elon even came out on this was, if we're at this financial disaster, we have to reduce it down.
Yeah. 36 trillion now.
But the new idea is we're going to add to that.
I know.
And then the big thing of all, I'm as big a supporter.
They want to add $5 trillion.
Yeah.
It's insane. Saying, kind of like the stadium stuff, a little bit.
Yeah, no, it is.
That in the future, it's going to pay off, though. It'll pay itself back. That's what they're saying in the bill. Yeah, it's $5 trillion added on, but with all this, and this.
The incentives will come in and tax reduction can go. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of the Brownback stuff. Mm-hmm. The difference is when states do it, they have to balance their budget. So we literally were like, I remember when Brownback did that deal, and it was cool. I had tons of extra money. Not tons, I shouldn't say. It was limited amount of extra money.
What are you talking about, the Brownback?
So in Brownback, what he did in it's like 14 or 15, he passed this deal to try to attract, I think, in general business to Kansas side, but also to get people to hop from Missouri to Kansas side. Mm. So he made no income tax on anybody that was basically 1099. Mm-hmm. The idea was, we have money now to hire people, and businesses were going to leave from Missouri to Kansas. And the reality of it is, okay, so maybe you get a 6% tax cut. Would that be enough money for you to pick up your business? Let's say you're in Gladstone. Pick up your business and go to Overland Park? Probably not.
No.
And if you're a business owner and you're like, cool, I saved $7,000 on my taxes. Am I going to hire somebody just because I have an extra $7,000? No. So it was doomed to begin with.
Put new wheels in the Porsche.
Literally. But then after when that was passed, 2 years go by. Duh, the funds aren't there. The state has to balance their budget. There was legit talk of schools might not open. I was immediately emailing our council member going, you better figure this out like immediately. Or I'm dropping my kids off at your school or your house because I'm like,
dude, I admire that shit, dude. I need to start doing that, man.
Oh, I'm the most annoying fucking person when it comes to that shit.
No, we need guys
I will find my guy and be like, I've emailed all that shit. I'll email him, hey, man.
My buddy Blake Wharton's the same way, dude. He called Mayor Lucas fucking blocked him, which I guess he does fucking frequently.
I've heard this.
Many people on there are like, yeah, he blocked me.
I have heard this.
What the fuck? What are you blocking people for, dude? What kind of
I have heard
that?
this.
Yeah.
But I'll email anybody on there if there's somebody in power that can maybe make a difference. Hell, even with the stadium stuff, and not stadiums, but just the team.
Well, imagine if more people did what you did, including myself. I'm guilty of it too. Like I talk all this shit, but then I need to fucking back it up by doing these things. It's just, a lot of us feel like, what's it really going to do?
And does it never do much? It usually doesn't. But
maybe if a mass amount of people do it.
Yeah. Well, and what you
that
do
could
on this,
change some
with
shit.
this podcast, you do good things to bring attention to stuff so people can do that. Because like when I see some bullshit, like if I'm at a Chiefs game, like, well, actually, we were at a concert that was at the Royals. We were trying to Uber home. We usually don't Uber from the games. Their system was trash. I'm like, who's doing this? I mailed operations going, dude, fix this shit. This is insane. So you just got to email these people like, hey, like the council members, what are you doing? Like, and the only good thing is less people do bog them. They will respond more often than not. Council member Sean, what's his name? I think it's Sean Smith, I want to say. He's during all this stuff, I was emailing him about some of this stuff. We ended up talking about the county prosecutor and other different things, and very communicative. And I'm like, they will talk to you.
But then the problem is that if less people communicate, then they're able to do whatever the fuck they want.
Dude, no, you've got to keep them absolutely.
You got to hold them accountable.
Hold them accountable. All of them should be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're right, though. I mean, you do got to stay on top of all these people. What they're doing.
Also, too, dude, another thing I've been discussing, how do you expect decent folks to go into those positions when they pay so shitty?
Yeah, that literally.
Literally, you have to have a good job that gives you enough time to be able to allocate enough time towards this as well, being a council member, and you're getting paid. I mean, I think I had Wes Graves on here as North Kansas City council member. I think he was getting paid like $100-something bucks a month or something like that. It was something ridiculous. I was like, what? And I get the side of it. It's like you don't want to pay them too much because you don't want them to like that be an incentive for them to go. But then also I see the other side. It's like, well, then maybe you would actually get some good folks that would go and run and be able to live off of that, but actually give.
I go back and forth on it
enough, enough to it.
I mean, by not paying them crap. I mean, it is kind of the argument of these lifelong.
I know that's where I battle.
It is the idea of term limits, paying them all this stuff. Because you're right. Like people say, "Oh, you want to run?" I'm like, I thought about it. She got too crazy.
But then you got kind of guys with money just going in there and running. You know what I mean? And then what's their incentive?
Exactly. It's always, and people could,
networking probably.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I will say it's equivalent of like an HOA president. Sometimes they do it for personal gain of like, I want to have control of the neighborhood. But in general, it's a thankless job you're doing for your neighborhood that you got suckered into.
We would like to think, though. But what do we know about people in government that they're being accused of? It's usually a personal incentive.
Imagine once you get there, who knows what kind of they don't want to leave for a reason.
I know.
The idea when it was originally established was you go do your term, you serve the people, get the hell out. Because who the hell would want to stay more than your term?
I know, but I've had guys tell me like, Gabriel, hey man, you should go try to be a council member in your town. And it's like, yeah, I would like to, and I'm actually very interested. I'm very interested. I would like to be in these meetings and see what's being discussed. And I'm not the type of guy that's going to be like, oh yeah, whatever, let's just go with that because my friends are saying that. No, I want to make it make sense to me. But then again, it's like I got a full-time fucking job. I'm barely fucking making it as is.
Jobs, kids,
kids,
everything
fucking
else.
our other hobbies and shit. It's like then I got to go do this shit for $100 and something a month.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't. And I get both sides of it. You don't want to fucking give too much money. You don't want to give not enough. It's just, it's
Absolutely.
a shitty overall factor.
Absolutely.
I don't know how it's working.
I got suckered into, I've done the HOA one time because I got suckered into it when I was new in my neighborhood. And then like I recently volunteered on the committee, which I told them I'm 100% not going to get on, but it's with the relight the sign. Well, it's not, it's lit, but fix the sign committee.
Right. Yeah. Why is that thing always off?
Oh, there's a whole long story. It's very, very expensive to run.
I bet.
And, well, not as much expensive to run, to maintain. And when they relit it in 2018.
Is that not something they can get from the renters there?
No, that's us. That's I mean, that's the thing is it is us.
So if you were to add on the amount of money it takes for each tenant, it would probably cause some issues.
Well, we do have a budget to do it, but what's needed is exceeding.
I guess let's discuss what we're talking about. What is it? The Western
Auto sign.
Yeah.
So, the signs, everyone knows that it's on all the stuff. So, it's kind of a public thing. You see it on all types of stuff. There's no like copyright to it in essence. Like there's not like, oh, we got.
Is that protected under the what's that when they
historical?
Historical factor. Okay.
So it's a historical deal. It's completely maintained. Weirdly enough, I got in the weeds of this. It's not owned by the building. It's owned by the original whoever, really? But it has to be maintained by the people that own in that building.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be lit.
No, there was a guy. He went out on the work to get it in 2018, put the time and effort to get it relit. So in 2018, they had a big sale.
I remember, I think I remember when I used to see it lit, and then it just stopped.
Well, it lit, and it still is, but it's
portions.
It's challenging because you have the neon, which is the red, you have the white, which is the lights, two different problems. But when weather hits it, it's old. I mean, I'm not a technical guy. I'm not in construction, but it's basically the transformers are either overheating with the weather and they're burning out. So you have to send somebody out. It kind of gained a lot of attention in a couple years ago. Monday Night Football is happening. And during the game, they were basically dogging on the city going, hey, can't say your sign's like missing a letter there. Did you notice this out? Yeah. And our HOA president, he's like sitting there messaging going, I've got the messages from about the entire city yelling at me. Mayor Lucas hopped on Twitter. He tweets right at him going, hey, HOA guys, about fixing that sign. And the response was, you want to help us out? Because we'd love to. And so there was a little bit of conversation about it and it kind of didn't go far.
Did they not help out at all, the city?
No, they gave us
which is funny, and I'm not for that, but which is funny because they're trying to light that fucking radio tower right now. Did you see that shit?
Oh, yeah.
It's like $100-something thousand just to get it inspected.
Yeah, the things are exceedingly expensive. So, to give you some idea, we have
for what?
Yeah,
I mean, granted, if the people in that area want to fucking contribute and light it up, you know what I mean, or if the tenants in the Western Auto building want to pay a little extra towards their monthly rent, then I get that.
It's basically we have a $10,000 a year budget to maintenance it.
But
right now, I'm looking into it. The numbers I'm slowly working into it. The numbers I've heard are anything from about low end $200,000-$300,000 to $1 million. Literally, I'm like $1 million. So that's why the idea is, well, shit, we might just have to turn it off. Now, my point of view is, I says, before we turn this off, and we're not there yet, I go, we still need to diagnose the exact problem. But I go, it is becoming kind of a symbol of the city. People take pride in it. I was like, let's just see if there's anybody like a GoFundMe in essence. Because I have seen some comments of like.
Surely somebody would. Yeah. A bunch of people probably would donate to that.
Absolutely. So we're in the initial phases of trying to collectively do this. Because I'm like, everything from if the Royals were to go downtown and be like, hey, this looks pretty shitty. Like,
right.
How about helping out? You like the idea of the look of it, obviously. Or if World Cup's coming, they're freaking paying what, $25,000 a person or a building to have the office front filled in.
Don't get me started on the World Cup, man.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
That one, I'll be curious to see if we really do see the benefits they claim. That's a different animal.
What's the history of the world? Well, I guess this is the first.
We've held it in the U.S. before, but we've never held it here before.
Okay. I wonder what the history is on the other locations.
I would be curious.
Yeah. Now, like how much benefit was it to the city that they,
It would be. I would love to see the 1990.
Hey, find those studies.
I would love to find them. Absolutely.
That'll be the next podcast. We'll come on. We'll do the World Cup.
I do.
Because when is that? 2026?
Next year.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with the World Cup though is it's a lot like the Olympics. Most of these countries, they're building whole new stadiums, like you talk stupid stadium deals, like Brazil? They built some stadiums that played 4 games ever. And then
there was a couple of countries that did that.
Never
or
played
like
again.
They had a homeless problem and all of a sudden they got rid of all of it and they
happen.
cleaned it all up.
That is going to happen.
And I brought this up. I guarantee it's going to happen here. You're not going to see much homeless people in the World Cup.
100% happen. It's the same thing that's happened like when San Francisco magically cleaned up. It's going to happen in LA when the Olympics come. They just find a way.
Well, I had Wes Graves on in his podcast, and he said Lucas, I'll use Lucas, I'm sure it was his team, you know, him and his team. They took some of the homeless people and pushed them up to North Kansas City when they had that whole big issue of homelessness and put them in the hotel over there behind that McDonald's on Armour Road.
I've heard rumors. I mean, I can't verify it. It's only
yeah.
No, I'm just saying, but I've heard that like my buddy
Google.
goes, you know where the newest homeless encampment is? And I go, you know, where's that? He goes, Warrensburg, Missouri.
Yeah.
I go, no shit, the Berg. That's where I went to school.
Yeah.
And he's
like,
really?
My dad graduated from there.
Days a meal?
Yeah. My brother too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's actually getting ready to graduate, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We love the Berg.
Yeah.
And he goes, they're sending them on buses up there because they're just sending them out of town to tell them where you want to go. And they go to college towns. So they've been going there. I'm like,
yeah, my dad always talks about this bar. What's it called? It's like a well-known fucking bar
Smitty's, Star Bar.
No, it's back in...
Problem is the name
library or some shit. I can't remember what they
change like
Yeah.
All the time. So like every about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I don't remember when he graduated. I was a kid, so I don't.
Pine Street was definitely the place.
Yeah. I can't remember. He used to talk about this bar all the time that everybody used to get together at. But no, I do like it down there. It's a nice area.
Great area.
So that's where they're pushing.
I mean, that's what he said. He goes, I'm down there. He goes down there for some work stuff. He's like, there was a lot of them there. He goes, we used to never.
Well, we're not the only town. I mean, that's been discussed all over the United States that they're just big cities are picking them up and giving them a one-way ticket and dropping them off somewhere else. That's their problem.
The homeless situation, like that whole subject, like I am compassionate to it. And I don't think,
to an extent.
To an extent. Like I don't think you should just shit on people. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think they have any more of a right to own the sidewalk than anywhere else. Like I don't get a chance. I can't go. You would be not pleased if I passed out on your sidewalk here.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
that wouldn't happen.
Of here now. You got about 5 seconds. I mean,
even though I don't pick fights with homeless people.
No,
fuck that.
Absolutely not.
We've got enough of them around our gym, and they're just fucking. Some of them are psychotic, dude. I don't want to get stabbed with a dirty needle.
That's
or
a
something.
whole bigger issue of when it comes to people's rights, this and the other, which I agree with. But at the same time, I'm like, if somebody's not mentally okay, they probably used to want help.
Yeah,
you can't help them against their will.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of that, and it's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I've got so many ideas. If I was in charge of the city, I mean.
Dude, I know. And it's fucked up, man. And I know people look at me as not being compassionate towards the homeless, but dude, you continually give shit to them and food and all this. All you're doing is just, it's like cats, man. When you feed them, a bunch of cats start coming and you got a bunch of them.
Well, it literally happens. And that's been my biggest frustration, which is.
And I'm fine if like privately they want to do it, like churches and shit like that. But I still don't think you doing that is making a difference because it's like, and maybe to some, I'm going to say some for sure. Some people probably gotten back on their feet, but dude, some of them, it's just like, it's mental illness.
It's absolutely mental illness.
Yeah.
They need
and like
actual
children
help.
of like childhood molestation, like these people are hurting and I don't know how you fix it. Maybe there's some places that they can go to. I don't know, but
no, it's 100% true. And like I see it firsthand because one of the prime locations they're talking about putting the stadium is at Washington Square Park, right next to Union Station. The park is minimally used. I see it all the time. It really doesn't have stuff there. What they do have is about 2 or 3 nights a week. This van pulls up, they set up a table, and they serve food there. Could they serve food anywhere else? Of course. But they serve it there, and then what ends up happening is you see about 20, 30 people passed out in the fields because they do what you're saying. Where is this at? Right at Washington Square Park. They're at downtown where they're talking about a stadium. It's right next to Union Station. They just show up a few times a week, feed them, and then
so that's probably why they congregate there.
Of course, they're there because it's food. When there's not one of the food nights, they're barely there.
Right,
and a lot of them do. I understand the multiple arguments of homelessness and how to fix it when you're talking about economics, but a lot of it is mental illness,
dude. And I talked to a buddy of mine, and granted, this is only going to be a portion of what his experience with these people. But he even said a lot of them he's talked to, and this was years ago when he told me, he goes, a lot of them want to be homeless.
Yes,
it's like they get to go travel around and eat, and do whatever. You ain't got to live under the stressors of having to make rent and work and do all this shit. And I'm like, God damn.
That's not a funny joke about the guys homeless guys watching. I go to work going, sucker, and he's like, I'm gonna go to the lake today. I'm gonna take a nap. I'm doing whatever I want.
And do some of them? They got fucking tents and sleeping bags, and it's fucking. I mean, granted, I'm sure it gets a little dangerous and wild, but I don't know, man. I can't.
I think there's so many things you could. I think I'm not being politically correct by any stretch, but I think it's like, back in the day when they used to have the crazy houses when you put people in, it's not a bad thing. It's like, get them the help they need forcibly. Maybe if they get the medication they need or the diagnosis, maybe they're going to be like, wow, thank you.
Yeah, but we could meet in the middle. We don't have to go technically back to that, but we could have institutions to where like, and dude, honestly, man, this sounds fucked up, but there may be nothing you can do.
Might not be.
And it, sometimes when you got to, I mean, what do we do to, I'm not saying we should do this, but what do we do to dogs? Yeah. You know what I mean? That are just completely past help. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, these are the tough discussions, but we got to have a place for them. You can't have them out in public. I'm sorry. I don't know what to fucking tell you. What? And I get it. They're people. They're not dogs. They're still a problem. Yeah. Okay. And just because if these people were in some of the areas that these politicians live, in these Leawood type areas, they would not deal with it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but it's in a metropolitan area. We don't care.
It's part of the city.
Yeah, or even fucking where I live, dude. I mean, it's increasing, and because they're building these, what do they call them, missions or whatever? Yep. Like these places where they feed them, or halfway homes. There's one like right down the fucking street here in a suburban neighborhood.
There's a whole conversation. Johnson County had to deal with that. They had an old hotel that was out, and they're like, going to put there, and they voted it down. Like, it was a not in my backyard situation. I get. Yeah. But my thought is this: it's like, I don't like when I've talked to some people, they think, oh, you're so incompassionate when it came to the stadium, because I'm like, look, there's only homeless people there. I had one person even yell at me because I called him homeless. I'm like, I'm sorry, unhoused.
I don't even deal with that.
I don't
shit.
either. I was just like.
Yeah.
I go, does that make that guy any more housed because you called him unhoused?
Dude, that's one thing I'm loving about the newer generation, not on that side, on the other side where they're not giving a fuck anymore. I'm done. And I'm on that fucking side too. I'm done with that shit.
So when it comes to the homeless in general, I'm like, I don't want anybody to starve to death. I don't want anybody to freeze to death. I don't want anybody to overheat. Yeah. I'm like, I even heard Bill Maher in his podcast. He's like, he stole my idea. He's like a refugee's house place. You put them up, put some security up with some old vets with guns to make sure there's no crime. Yeah. Air condition the tents, heat them in the winter, have food, but put it on the outskirts, and you have a choice. Get out of there, make it minimal, so it's not like, hey, this is my life now. But
just make sure those taxes are coming out of all the people who are fucking crying about it. Oh, don't call them homeless. Make sure they're the ones funding. Well, that's the thing.
A lot of people love to bitch because it's always other people's money. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah, they don't fucking do shit. And I'm not going to say all of them, but a majority of them don't do shit.
A lot of them don't.
They just fucking talk because it's easy to get on these trends. It's easy to get on on their phones, type this shit real quick, and then send it out. It's like, well, fuck you, dude. You go deal with that shit.
Always. It's like, my personal belief is always, if you're physically or mentally incapable of taking care of yourself, that is a separate category. And we've always taken care of them. And I believe those people should have some level of safety net for them. If you physically and mentally could not take care of yourself. Right. I don't think you should. But if you're a freaking person who can take care of themselves. Able-bodied, mentally okay. There's literally places always hiring. Like, I always looked at it like, I've always had a job, always working hard. And I'm like, but I always had in my head, if things go sideways, where's my next hustle? What am I going to have to do? Yeah. Because it's.
And I'm also on the other side too. Like, companies pay better. You know what I mean? Like, dude, another thing that's bothering me right now is just how stagnant the wages are compared to the economic issues that we're having. The cost of living, man. And I'm not saying that companies should be obligated, but if you're continually complaining about turnover and about people, oh man, I can't find anybody that wants to work worth the shit. I get it. We are having an issue as generations go on of people not wanting to work. But let's also look at the other factor. Who the fuck wants to work for $20 an hour? Yeah. When you can't get shit with that? Well,
a grown-ass I would say to the owner that does do that, definitely don't bitch about people.
Exactly. You're going to get $20 an hour worth. $20 an hour is not what it was 10 years ago.
And that's the quality of what you're getting. When you're doing that, that's what you're
even me speaking, I've been in and out of construction to machining my whole life. Machining has been so stagnant. I mean, I'm still seeing shops that are wanting to pay $20 to $25 an hour or $18 an hour. And I'm like, guys, you're going to get what you get for that.
Do they get people to show up for that?
Yeah, but then they complain about who shows up. And it's like, guys,
that's what you get for
that's
that.
what you're getting. I mean, I'm sorry, $20 an hour, 20 or 30 is the new 20 and 20 is the new 10. That's just, it is what it is. We're all seeing it in our pockets. And I don't, that's the issue with that private side that I'm talking about, is that I'm for the private sector, but let's be smart about this. You know what I mean? Like, let's relook at, is our 30% profit worth the headache of paying people very low?
Do you think that should come from a political government type minimum wage rise?
No, I don't like minimum wage.
Just be common sense.
It should just be It should just be, let's look at this, guys.
See the New York probable mayor, he's guaranteeing them $30 minimum wage.
Once you start doing that shit, now, I don't like minimum wage, man. I mean, I don't like that at all. And I understand what they're trying to do. And it's like, hey, you can't pay them below this. But to me, it just shows me, all I have to pay them is that. You know what I mean? All I have to give them is... Well, in general,
though, that's what they will do. They will always pay the minimum it takes to do it. Unless they start seeing, shit, turnover isn't working. We need to hire somebody. Yeah. It's like the Wendy's. You drive up there and there's one person working, now hiring. It's like, either it's going to shut down or you're going to have to pay more.
The problem is, though, and what I've heard is that some of these industries, they have backdoor meetings with each other, other businesses. And I understand some are too large, so it's hard to do. But machining here in Kansas City is small. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those shop owners are getting together and saying, hey, to be sure that we don't compete with each other, let's make sure we hold the line on this wage. Because that's the problem, is they're seeing, you have one guy that'll be here, he'll be working for this shop, and then he'll get a $2 raise if he goes there. And they're kind of bouncing around back and forth, back and forth. It's a small, manufacturing isn't huge here.
No,
you know what I mean? It's kind of small.
It's very small.
It's a lot of warehouses and stuff like that for sure, but manufacturing itself is small.
Minimal. I call manufacturing every day, and very few of them are here. Mm-hmm. It's not a big hub here.
Yeah. So it's just minimum wage. I get it. I get what you're trying to do, but at the same time, I do not think, and I'm not as knowledgeable on it, but the people that I do look up to, they're saying it's a bad thing.
I do think it's a bad thing. I just think in general, the way you punish anybody for shitty pay is not working.
Right. And also too, the anytime a business sees that, minimum wage is going up, they're going to put the cost off to the customer. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why we've seen, that's why we were talking earlier about
which is fucked up. Yes. And I will say to that business, I understand that you're upset because the government's telling you have to pay them that. So I get your side on that. But then again, I hate when they always put the cost off to the customer. They can't touch their profit. And I'm not foretelling you can only make a certain amount of money.
I'll argue back, though, with the capitalism of it, though, you can't just arbitrarily, though, add it to it if the competition is fighting it back.
Right.
So, I have a buddy of mine, he was like, whether it was his house or anything else he was trying to ever sell, he's like, well, I had to put this new furnace in and new roof, so I'm going to sell my house for this. I'm like, no, you're going to sell the house for whatever the market's going to say. Just because you put that in, you might have, you picked the wrong house that has a $50,000 foundation fix. That sucks, but you can't say, no, you got to pay more. It's what the consumer will pay.
Yeah, you're doing what the government does when they raise your property tax. They're going, hey, we're just saying it's worth more. So we're going to charge you more.
and see, that was one of the most hilarious, not funny, but it was funny. It was when the vote went down last year. You saw these people that were so no vote, hand in hand with Frank White, like just loving it. And I'm like, he's the guy behind what you're getting screwed about. Like, what are you celebrating that guy? Yeah. He's the one that's doing the property taxes. All those people.
I heard some people's property tax went up like 1,000%.
Even if you didn't rent, or even if you did rent, you're not free of this. They're going to jack your freaking price up. Yeah. So it's screwing everybody.
It's wild.
Now that I think should have been a little bit more focused on during all that crap. But like I was saying earlier about when you were talking about the difference between the state and the feds. Feds get you one way or another, and we're seeing that now because when the state didn't have the money, what happened? They had to. We voted out Brownback immediately. They put a Democrat in because it was somebody different. They fixed the budget like almost immediately, paid it back. Taxes, that tax went away immediately, back to normal. When the feds screw you, just like with this whole thing with this jacking the money up, that's when inflation eventually hits you. That's where you get hit. That's why we're seeing this crap. Right. When COVID happened, we were paying all those people stupid amounts of money.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't get
stimulus package.
Because you're fucking people on, you can't open, you got to shut down, you can't work. So
which is completely wrong.
Oh, insanely wrong. But when they funneled all that money in, where do you think it was going to eventually come from? So that was a lot of it. Like the whole COVID deal, which I know you've talked about infinitely amount, but it's so true though. It's an experience that's wild we lived through.
Yeah, nothing's free. That's what I try to tell people. Nothing's free. There's going to be a cost.
There's always
and the cost is your dollar's not worth as much now.
And there's where, when it's not worth much now, oh damn, it's how much now for what? That's where it goes up. There's so many different problems like that, and that's why I think competition does generally fix most of these things. Mm-hmm. Like in New York, it's a whole different animal. I think each city needs, like I was saying with this, each city needs to look at their own city and what their problem is. I know I've seen some of especially the Kasey tenants group, they're jumping on the whole rent's too damn high because that's New York's thing. Mm-hmm. We're not New York.
Right.
New York is literally, I looked it up just today. Average rent, it was like $4,500. And I'm like, and that's for like shoe boxes.
But we could say that rent here in Kansas City is getting pretty high. I mean, it's not what it was when I was.
It's $1,200 to $1,300 on average. What these were the numbers I saw.
I know, but when you're talking about most jobs are paying like $20.
That's where the problem is. It's not the cost of how much rent is. It's what people aren't getting paid.
But what justifies the cost going up? That I guess because the dollar's worth less.
But here you can't say, you inflation adjust it back to like 03. Mm-hmm. It's about what it was in 03.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's within about $50 to $100. So like,
because when I first moved out in 2010, I paid $500 for a 2-bedroom apartment in Gladstone in the suburbs.
And what's it now? Do you know?
Probably close to $1,000.
Yeah.
From what I heard last, I think it was like 9 something.
That's about right with the doubling of it. So if the inflation adjusted, I think my place looked up was like 6.
Yeah, because that's the big factor is inflation.
Yes.
Your dollar is worth less now because we continually keep printing money.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And it's backed by nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
When fiat currency, who was that, Reagan, or who was that in the 80s?
That I don't know. It would have to be Reagan then.
When we went to the fiat currency, where it was backed by not gold anymore, it wasn't backed by the gold standard. Now it's a number.
It's a computer. It's an idea. Money's always an idea.
Yeah.
It's just an idea.
That's wild though, man.
That's where, in wages, I think the quick answer is always, just raise the minimum wage. I'm like, well, that's coming from somewhere.
No, somehow we have to get these companies in the private sector to be able to increase the labor wages. And the only way to do that, and I know when I discuss unions, everyone freaks out. The people, whether it's union or not, somehow have to get together and be able to demand what they feel is owed. But this is the problem. Getting everybody together, as you know, as I know, as anybody knows, is very difficult to get everybody to line on the same page. Yeah. So, and these businesses know that. They're not stupid. They have businesses for a reason. They're smart.
Yep.
You know? So I don't know. I think about this sometimes and I'm like, what is the solution?
Well, I think, in my opinion, one of the solutions is, and I'm not the expert in how to actually implement this, but the idea of it would be America's built on small business.
Right.
And the more we have more small businesses, the better. And the problem is all these businesses, we've even noticed this in our industry, so many companies are just merging.
Right.
So like we're like going, man, I used to have some customers. Well, now that one customer or the 2 customers is now 1, and I don't have either of them.
Yeah.
Because everyone's shrinking.
Or the big box stores are buying or pushing everybody out, really.
And so one funny idea, and I kind of didn't hate the idea. Like, I'm with you. It's ass backwards against me of a more free capitalism way, but I would agree with like this is one thing I think, like with housing, for example. I think everyone from Kasey tenants to capitalists could agree on with BlackRock. They're going out buying thousands of properties because it's a smart investment. Housing usually goes up.
We want to go down the BlackRock path. Ooh.
Not going to go into conspiracy. I'm going to just talk about the idea of it though, on the surface. Mm-hmm. If a company buys out thousands of homes, takes it off the market, and they can control it.
That's the big issue, right?
That's an issue. Yeah. So like, I think a lot of people would be on board with going, look.
But how do you fight that without going against capitalism?
You do. Because you have to do it. I mean, that's it. You have to go. You do have to.
So you'd have to go towards a socialist route where you limit private businesses from.
There's always limits. When people go, I'm a free capitalist, there's always limits. Unless there's no place I've ever seen that's pure purely.
I wrestle with that a lot, man. If I can be open about that, because like I'm a libertarian at heart, but I wrestle with some things. Some
yes,
ideas,
there could be views that you always lean towards,
but I'm very open about that because I don't want to be. I've always said I don't want to be married to a party or anything. I do believe in libertarian principles, which still conflicts, but like I don't know, man. Some of it just without having very compassionate people to be able to implement those principles, it's not going to work because we know a lot of these companies are greedy as fuck. They don't give a fuck. They will take everything. I'm not going to say all of them, but there are. Yeah.
And so using BlackRock as an example, I think enough people to get it passed could be on board with, I don't know what the number is, because like you get 10 homes or you get 100 homes, but I mean, they're like in the thousands of homes. It's actually affecting the market in a great way.
Right.
If you said, look, you get 100 homes, like most business people go, that can work. Like a funny joke I heard, and I'm not anywhere remotely in the socialist world, but the joke I heard, because like when you talk about like income inequality and how do you fix it, my guy on 96.5 The Buzz, that's now, what is he on, 98.9 now, Laszlo, he goes over, he goes, he's a free capitalist guy, but he also goes, maybe when you get to like Elon levels, you get $1 billion, you get a t-shirt and a trophy that says, I won capitalism, because there's nothing more you can do at a certain point. And I was like, I don't agree with exactly that, but yeah, like when one person, one company does start to take it out, it is a monopoly like the old game. Like we do outlaw monopolies. We do outlaw we have antitrust laws, but companies' influence can get around that crap.
Yeah, but say because there still are.
Yeah.
I mean, monopoly is a huge issue right now.
Absolutely.
How do we combat that?
Exactly. That is some of the fight. And I think that's where a lot of people could be on the same page if you get past just the bigger picture of.
I know.
And that is where, like, even with the stadiums, I do agree.
We're married to ideas.
It is ideas. Yeah. We're married to them. We can't ever bend on them.
Yeah.
Because also at the same time, people don't trust the other side to bend.
Well, because they're scared of if they bend, they'll do too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like a pendulum. We always like to swing extremely to each side, and we can never stay balanced. Yeah.
And my view has always been, if the people, whoever's in power, doesn't matter who it is, that's the time to regulate and fix the stuff that the opponents, if you will, the other side, wants you to. Do it so you do it on your terms. Kind of like I remember in 08, it was probably 09 when Obama was trying to get healthcare passed, and all of a sudden, every idea from the other side just came up. No, your idea sucks. We got a better idea. It's like, well, maybe, but where were you for the last 8 years? You could have done any of that.
Yeah.
So do it while you're in charge. You actually have the numbers. Don't let the other side then come in and go, oh, no, we're going to do it our way. And you're
look what happened. I mean, fucking the cost of insurance is insane after all that.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think there's a big discussion of how he did it and where it could have been done better. Maybe,
but now it is what it is. It's already the cat's out of the bag. Insurance is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and so there's different things like that where I think if you want to fix housing,
but you're right, they're waiting too long.
Yeah, you're letting the problem. And so right now you have it is not here, but
so where people get so frustrated, and then then the other team comes in and does something drastic that sways to the other side worse. And then it's like, well,
like, whoa. Because it gets so done. And because people always will take the wrong lessons from what happens. So like right now, you're going to see across the country, even here, I guarantee it, this guy that won in New York, he's a Democratic socialist. That's the ticket. That's what people responded to. No, they responded to a million other things besides that he was a Democratic socialist.
Which guy is that?
He's now the current Democratic nominee for mayor in New York
Is that
City.
the Middle Eastern guy that they're freaking out, calling a terrorist and stuff?
Yeah. He's a Democratic socialist. His views are very socialist.
Yeah.
And he wants to have grocery stores owned by the city. He wants a lot of these.
I thought that's wild, though. It's so annoying to me. And I know it didn't necessarily come out and call him a terrorist, but I think Michael Malice, which he's, anarchist, and who actually finds some of his ideas that he discussed actually pretty interesting, just being one at one point too when I was younger. And when he posted something like, God, I can't remember what the tweet was, something about 9/11 and you guys actually voted for it again or something like that. I think he was trolling. I don't know if he was being serious or not, but then Trump Jr. retweets it, which is crazy. It's so crazy, the tweeting thing right now. Just everything's on fucking X now.
The crazy thing about just in general right now, like there's the things I have liked. I'm like, if I ever was going to do something political, I was always like, the one thing Trump did, regardless if you're left, right, and indifferent, he took away the norms out. Like,
yeah,
you can just be a person.
I do agree with that.
Like, you can just be a real person.
Right.
You don't have to be the stuff.
To an extent. He was kind of a billionaire, but yeah.
There was definitely other things besides.
You still got to be of status of some sort.
But I think sometimes people...
But at least you don't have to be a 30-year politician.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people take the wrong lessons. Like, just like even with the vote. This is literally what I see.
But like you said, people are stuck on their teams.
They are. It's a team vote. Mm-hmm. And so without collaboration and nuance, that's the one word that is just... that was literally what this Neil guy, when I was responding to him, I had my concern about that. And he goes, yeah, in this culture, nuance, we don't have time for it. Mm-hmm. He's just basically saying nuance, it is important, but it's not the world we live in right now, unfortunately, because nuance is everything, but it's boring. It's so in the details. It's in the weeds. We are a very, that's why I love what you're doing with podcasts in general. When I heard that explained of why, just in general, the change happened, it's once I took on the podcast, because you are in long form. You can listen to people, hear their full thoughts, not a chopped up. I assume these aren't edited. No. I mean, not in a great extent, because I'm like, I will never listen to this because I can't stand the sound of my own voice. I'm still 1990s answering machine style. I don't like to hear my voice. It sounds awful. So I'll never listen to this. So you could edit, do whatever you want.
No, I don't edit. The only thing I chop is the beginning and the end.
Yeah, but I just mean, in general though, but that's the problem is, did I send you that Key and Peele skit about texting and tone? If I did, I've got to. So
I've seen that.
It's just hilarious because that's where it is, where people read it in their own. I always get worried when on any messaging. It's like, what tone are they taking this in? Like, what kind of day do they have? Who are they? Because they could be hearing this in that voice that's like.
Well, that's why sometimes I'll put don't read this as if I'm in a pissed off mood or something. You know what I mean? Like, let them know context.
Yes, I will absolutely try to be like. I've told people sarcasm rarely translates. That it's hard to get. But yes, with tweeting and all that stuff now, that's what they do.
The good thing with podcasts is what I enjoy is that, like you said, it gives you enough time to be able to understand someone's point of view, their side of the story without these 5-minute or even sometimes 1 minute. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get everything out and it's all a bullshit theater.
You got 8 talking heads. Yeah. You get a minute because it's all about ratings. And that's the problem is, and it's tough to say because they will say back in the day, it was still biased. But before news became entertainment and became a profit center, it was boring. It was the loss leader. And now it became the 24/7 profit center.
That's what happened, though, is when the 24/7 happened. That's when it started to be like, well, let's make sure we get all these stories in. So we got to be the first ones, even if it's not fact. Get it out there. Yeah.
And I've talked to you a little bit about this, but it's also, and this is why whenever I watch any story, it's very difficult to do. I appreciate some of your things. You're like, I like to get people to get, news from, these places I found are good. I'm like, you kind of have to do it yourself. Listen to almost every station. It takes a lot of work.
It does take
a
lot
of work. But what I kind of do now is I just skim across. I'll tape the major networks usually. I get like 10, 15 seconds from each of them. Okay, they talked about that. This person talked about this. Oh, wait, they didn't talk about this at all. Okay, no, kind of mental quick notes.
Right.
Because it is amazing when they just don't even cover it, which is what I was telling you about when I was talking about just different subjects out there. It is not really the lying is a problem. AI is a problem.
Yeah.
But this happened in 2016, and it wasn't a problem, but it was the algorithms of feeding people, and it's only gotten better. It feeds you certain things.
What happened in 2016?
During the election of 2016, Trump.
Okay, yeah.
That was one of the first times where it was heavily fed, where different sides were both getting just not information from the other side was getting at all.
Right.
And it's only gotten increasingly like that, where there can be major things that have happened. I mean, consider major, you would never know it existed. That's a whole new world to be like, didn't know. It's not, and that's not from people that are like, look, I don't follow the news. I'm not political. These are people that believe they're actively engaged. No clue what you're talking about. So one person's like, that was the biggest story I've ever heard. The other person who thinks they're involved going, no clue. Mm-hmm. And I believe a lot of that, the technological side, I don't think is per se 100% intentional. I think they're just profit driven and we just need clicks and views and that's what works.
I think that's what it is majority of the
Instagram,
time.
Zuckerberg, all those people, they've more or less admitted that, and their people in there have admitted that,
I mean, you can see it here in Kansas City. There's very little podcasts that do long form conversation. And, but who are getting most of the views? It's all this clickbaity type bullshit. You know what I mean?
Get buddies about sending me clickbait all damn day. What do you do with this? I'm like, especially with the stadium stuff. I've been told that stadiums cost $10 billion and it's been decided 100 different times for the last year, and it's just clickbait shit.
Yeah, but the problem is, it's like conversations like these. It's like, oh, it's too long, or it's too this. It's like, well, you take your fucking short ass attention span. Throw that shit out the window for a sec and just listen to 30 minutes.
Yes.
Do yourself a solid. Listen to 30 minutes. Break it up into 4 days, like you would a book, 15 pages a day.
Yes.
And then see
when
if
you're
you
driving, throw it on.
Yeah.
And that's what
Or look at fucking Rogan. He just had Bernie Sanders on.
I did. I was listening to some of that.
Just listen to that. And do you see some of the things that come out of it? Like you can see, and I do agree with some of the points that Bernie says. I'm not going to discredit him at all on everything. But, some of the shit is bullshit. And you can see it when he gets pressed.
Yes.
Yeah, when he and simply like when he said, well, I don't think Elon should be backing Trump with $275 million and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, what about fucking Kamala Harris? And she got $1.5 billion or something like that.
Yes.
Like, what do you agree? Well, yeah, well, that's not good either. Well, it's like, well,
and then he did try to pivot to I'm independent. I hate both sides. I mean, he tried to do a little pivot.
But you align with the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Just like Ron Paul and Rand Paul, they have to run as Republicans just to get a fucking seat in there, but they're libertarians. It's stupid.
I mean, I listened a lot to when you were listening to Christina talk last week, and I thought about myself, like all the different factors, but like, let's say hypothetically, I was like, oh, somebody says you should run or you should run. What do you run as? I mean, because
well,
generally speaking, one side wins.
The local level, you're an independent, right?
Yes.
At the council member. But once you get up there, you have to pick a party. Pick a team. And you got to pick red or blue.
I mean, I do agree, like other countries where they have the multiple parties, that probably is a good thing.
We do have multiple parties. Well, the problem is red or blue are only ones that are invited to the dance.
Well, and the problem also is with the multiple parties is whatever the independent, if they slightly lean towards one side, you're ironically and weirdly screwing that side because you're going to split that vote. And I know every independent third party voter, but if we get our 5% in, we're going to prove it could happen. It's like, but you're also going to put some shit in.
Yeah.
I mean, that is where it's a definite issue.
Yeah.
And so, do I have an answer for that? Hell no.
Well, I think the answer is just smaller government.
Yes.
If you take away more power and not let them have as much as they have, then people are able to live more freely than what they're living now. And I'm sorry, I know people want to entrust in their government bodies to be able to do all these great things that they think they're doing. But in reality, dude, you need to be responsible for your own life. I'm sorry, it's tough.
It is tough.
You can't nerf the world though. But the beauty about it is, I was just looking up a statistic not too long ago. I think it's churches and like nonprofits and stuff like that. They do more in charitable work than I believe our fucking our government do. I mean, these churches out there that fucking do all these like food drives and like donations of like coats and clothes and all this stuff. Like, we have organizations that can help. We don't have to rely on these political figures in order to do that, because we know they have a track record of continually mismanaging money. Always. I mean, Christina was just talking about Kansas City being in, what was it, 1 point something million over the budget or some shit. Like, we don't have enough money for some of these things. It's like, what? Who's managing the fucking book here?
That is a problem.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't, I'm not surprised. I wish I knew exactly the numbers.
No,
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
But the quick Google search. But even look at our national debt. I mean, to think that local governments are not having the same issues if the federal government's not having an issue, or they are having an issue.
And that's what I was saying earlier. I forgot to mention. So when we're talking about the federal debt, that's what there was optimism in what they're saying. But here's where I also knew when it was we're screwed was, like I was saying, I absolutely love our military. I think I have my nephews just became a Marine. I think they do an amazing job. They do keep us safe, but they also need to have 10 times the budget.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like it should come from pay or anything like that, but I'm just saying, of all the wasted fraud that's happening out there, you're telling me not one government contractor for Boeing and from all the Raytheon aren't getting
They should have been the first. Doge, that should have been the first place.
And when they did nothing but raise their freaking thing, I'm like, you're telling me you couldn't find a nickel of fraud? I guarantee you there's some sales reps.
You want to talk about waste? Why the fuck are we in like 200 different countries? Why do we have bases everywhere around the world? We're not the world police. I know that we want to be.
We've slowly just kind of acquired like a chessboard, like game of Risk. We were like, this base, that base, that base, that base. We are everywhere.
It's the same thing that I just was on that podcast discussing that Iran conflict, that we have nothing to fucking do with. I don't give a fuck if they're chanting about death to America, blah, blah, blah. If we can protect our nation, if we're dude, this one thing that Trump drives me nuts on. Oh, it's the best thing our military has ever done. We're so precise and so accurate and we have the best weapons and blah, blah. Then why the fuck are we everywhere? Then let's just go back to our borders. If we have all this great military equipment and technology, then no one's going to fuck with us. Why are we over here playing, I'm going to protect this person and this person and this in this country and this? Come on, man. What are we doing? We're wasting fucking tax dollars here.
We're everywhere.
It's ridiculous.
So
and I get it, and I totally get that. I am not as well informed as some people that are in these positions. I totally get that. I understand there are threats that from these countries, but man, to be honest with you, if you go through some of the history of why these people end up being why they are, like these countries like Iran, if you start from back in the 50s and look on up and how we were involved and CIA's going into these
absolutely happening going
into these countries and swapping people out left and right out of these governments and putting our people that we want to do business with.
I mean, a counter argument always would be, if we didn't, then China would, or stuff like that. I don't know, but that is the counter.
That relates to like the
AI.
That relates to like the Missouri and Kansas battle over the teams. It's like, well, we can say we want to play ball, but if other states are not playing ball, then it's an issue. I get that,
and that's where it does kind of get challenging.
But I think a lot of the times, dude, is that like these conflicts, man. I think us trying to go over there and fix stuff is causing more issues.
There is absolutely times of unintended consequences of getting involved and fucking hand that bit us.
Because I'm not saying don't have any relationships at all. I'm saying, why the fuck do we have to spend all this money to be able to go,
No, I don't disagree.
We got fucking phones and computers, man,
I mean, the joke I saw, that was like when they were sending the, all the plane, when they had the B-2 leaving from here and they had the planes around it, it was all right, time to show Iran why we don't have free health care.
Yeah.
It's like, because we probably could have free health care if we didn't spend 10 times out of every other country.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, well, at least we protect it, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm not even a fucking socialist or communist, whatever you want to call it. But like, dude, if we're going to get anything out of our tax dollars, at least be something that benefits the fucking people. Like, we don't get shit.
No.
Nothing.
No.
You either got to be poor to get something, or fucking rich to be able to avoid it.
See, I wish somebody would run on this platform. If I were this would be my platform is, I'm for the 98%. I'd be like, I'm not for the top 1% or the bottom 1%.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm for the working guys all the way up to the rich guys.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Not the stupid rich guys.
Yeah.
I think
we're talking about like doctors.
Yes.
And
When I heard somebody say one of the, and this is pretty true, like for those of the billionaire types that are trying to get people on, what they did is they convinced people that made 100 or 200,000 a year that they were closer in mentality to the trillionaire than a guy that made 50 grand.
Right.
Like mentality wise, you're not. We are definitely up to $1 million a year. You really are closer in world effect to the $50,000 guy, even if you are $1 million guy.
Really?
They're not living the same. That next level, I'm worth 100 million, 200 million. I mean, it's just beyond comprehension.
Yeah, no, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, it's
anything they want. Like when those people say tax the rich, you're not talking about taxing Elon. You're talking about taxing the doctors, the people that make about $300-400K a year. Those are the people that are going to get heavily taxed. People like Elon, they'll just fucking buy a whole fucking tax firm.
They're a whole different.
To evade any.
They'll move it to a whole new country.
Exactly.
To put their money.
Which is a fucking problem. Yes. I'm not going to sit here and act as if rich people aren't a fucking problem. They are a fucking problem. They do. I don't know how to combat that. I don't know how to fix an issue without taking something from somebody or forcing them.
You're going to have to at a certain point. But here's where you're fixing though.
Yeah.
And this is where it's kind of like, have to make sacrifices. It is we're not talking about thousands of people or millions of people. We're talking literally about 20, 30 people,
right?
A handful of businesses but we do have laws in place for that. When we're talking about, I don't know the weeds of it, but the monopolies of in general, that's why we have those rules.
I know, but money talks, and they can buy people, and they can.
Well, and here's
persuade.
where I saw an interesting video a few years back. It was it was from a billionaire, and he was talking about equity or wage disparity in income. Mm-hmm. And he was selling. He goes, "I'm a billionaire, and we need to figure this out." And he's like, the pitchforks are coming. Because it's like, let's say you're worth $1 billion. Like, there's a book that a lot of, I don't know if I'd say libertarians, maybe you've read it, maybe you haven't. Mm-hmm. It's a very capitalistic book, but Atlas Shrugged, is that in your wheelhouse? It's one of those books.
No, but it's about to join the book collection up there.
Grain of salt on it. It's a story. A lot of people, like, they kind of also get dogged on going, well, it's a very immature view of capitalism. But the essence of one of the stories of the books is that basically the wealthy entrepreneurs get disrespected enough that they take their ball and go home to their own separate island, and everyone that was like working for them is like, well, fuck, now we have nowhere to work, basically. Mm-hmm. That was the essence. And I'm like, yeah, the reason why that story doesn't make sense is, let's say you are that billionaire. Well, why do you enjoy the fruits of that labor? Because you got somebody to manage your yacht, to feed you food and all this. If nobody's working, if everyone's fucked, I don't care if you have $1 trillion, nobody's there to actually pamper your ass.
Yeah, it's not going to matter.
So that's where we need to get back to where, and how I would think you do it, is you need to get those, like you were saying, there's like only a handful of those shops in town. Whatever the mechanism is to get more of those shops or more businesses. We don't need $1 trillion businesses that merge with stockholders and we're all there. You need everything from your mom and pop shops to, hey, I have 100 employees. Like my company I work at, there is one guy they started, and there's about 100 of us. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of those kind of companies. It's competitive. But the big boys up top, they are trying to merge and get in and, buy market share.
Out. Yeah.
And we're like, we make a good living. But we're like, oh shit, we're all starting to get screwed because a few big companies get the market share and screw us. And with housing, the same thing. You kind of have to make sacrifices to a certain point. Or the problem will be is, well, shit, when they get in charge because we didn't solve the problem, now they solved it in a way I really don't like. Mm-hmm. Because like in New York, that way they plan on solving it, I'm like, you're going to cause a shitstorm. But they're so angry and so like, holy shit, I get it. If your rent was like $4,000 or $5,000, and I get the whole argument, like, because I've made that argument. If you're in like LA, nobody said you had to live in Malibu. Like when it comes to like, free housing. Well, I'm giving the house in Malibu then. Like I would be the poster child of like why socialism can't work. Because I'd be like, oh, we're all getting the same? 100%? Cool. Catch you. I'm going to go to the pool, man. Like, it's my work day. Maybe tomorrow. I'll feel a little sick. I'd be a shitty employee because I'd have no incentive.
Everybody would be.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't work.
Right.
And every about 20 years, I feel like the generation gets together going, hey, maybe we should try socialism this time. Because in theory, socialism sounds amazing. Like in theory, everyone's awesome.
Right.
But in practicality, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. What can work is when if there were 50 machine shops, that pay's going up because
competitive market.
You're like, I need somebody to run these machines. We need to get out there. There's 5 of them. You're like, fuck you. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, where else are they going to go?
Yeah. So that's where, and it comes back into this, where the more any losing business in general is always bad for everybody.
Right.
So I'm not going to promise that any team would bring so many jobs, but they bring some jobs, they bring some restaurants, and it cascades around. Mm-hmm. That's where the whole point of it is. Now, in the fallout, if, like I said in the beginning, if these teams were asking for, I need $10 billion, well, we should be going, really? $10 billion? That will never pay off. Mm-hmm. But you do it in a responsible way, it'll be negligible. Like the Power and Light, we were going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. I loved hearing when they were talking about how Power and Light has been a loser. And I'm like, well, maybe based on its original idea, it didn't work. But I would argue it did, and here's why. Mm-hmm. But like I said, back in 2003 and prior, nothing downtown. Around, it had to have been 2005, 4 or 5, right when this is all coming together. Buddy of mine goes, hey, I'm going to buy a condo in the River Market. I'm like, so you're a freaking idiot, dude. Why would you do that? Like, you're an idiot. He goes, no. There's this thing they're doing. It's going to be called like Power and Light. It's going to be like a mall of bars. It's going to be happening. They're going to build this arena. So I'm going to invest down there. I was like, okay. I mean, I get it, I guess. So he invested in there. So now he's building in. These people go around and build on there. The idea was that Power and Light would pay for itself. I get that.
And it didn't.
It didn't. But the people in Power and Light, though, were also promised there would be a team in Sprint Center.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, absolutely. They didn't come in there based on just having bars and it's going to be cool. No, they were promised to have a team.
Was
NHL
the
or NBA.
Sprint Center not built at that time?
It was all kind of about the same time.
Oh, okay.
All about similar time frame.
But it had planned to have some sort of sports team playing in there.
Yes.
What were they in? Do you know what team they were thinking was going to be?
NBA or NHL.
Yeah. Okay.
It was one or the other. I think Pittsburgh was heavily floated, and they leveraged us as that other city to fund the Penguins in Pittsburgh because they were like, you don't pay us. Kansas City's got a deal.
Right.
So they leveraged them, but that was the idea. Now, thankfully, we have put in a ton of concerts. We've really actually utilized Sprint Center. It's not an empty place.
Right.
But the one big thing I would say where it did work, in my opinion, if you're going to go with the argument of there's two sides of it. One side say, no, it was inconsequential. I fully disagree.
Yeah.
The people that moved in, like my buddy, into River Market and other areas that got developed around then, did it on the promise of what was coming. So before that, nothing was down there. There was population downtown in 03 was about 4,000. It's almost 40,000 now. So those are people living in the city that, in my opinion, would not have lived down there if Power and Light Sprint Center did not spur that along.
Right.
You also taken it from, now this is against libertarian views, but more in favor of the city and why it worked. You got all these people choosing to move into like 1 light, then 2 light, then 3 light, then 4 light. Have to have decent income because that rent ain't cheap there.
Yeah.
They have that 1% employee tax. Now they're funding the city more. So at least that keeps our taxes in general down because people are living there. And you could argue, well, they would have lived in the plaza. They would have lived elsewhere. We're just moving, like you said, one to the other. Maybe. Or what if we never built that? And Kasey K said, hey, not only are we going to build this racetrack that we did, we're building Power and Light. I know it's a lot of theory.
Well, I don't think they're moving one to the other when it comes to Power and Light because that's a whole entity in itself. That wasn't like there wasn't a Power and Light at wherever and they moved it to there. No, it was built.
Yes.
Yeah, it was something new.
Well, it could be argued you took it from like the plaza area or Westport. People that would live there now moved towards.
Maybe.
But I say it is maybe.
But there's really not a nightlife. There was never really a nightlife in the plaza. Plaza's not really known for a
plaza.
nightlife.
You had Odaz a few places.
Yeah, Westport, you could say. Yeah.
But that would be the argument.
Which Westport still, I mean, it's still there. It's not like it moved and there's nothing there.
But that's where I'd argue with the competition of it with another area. We can't act like it's in a vacuum. So if you can just go across state line, if they were to build something, those people are moving there.
Yeah, and like we said, state line's a different thing.
It is a different thing. And I think 40,000 people and growing downtown right now, those are people paying property taxes. Those are people paying income taxes to the city, the state, all the above. It's growing. And so that's kind of what my argument of why Power and Light was a good thing is it spurred this along. I don't believe downtown ever grows. Now, one argument I heard from somebody, which I didn't disagree with, when they built 1 Light, they also offered a property tax, what do you call it? The abatements. Even the Western Auto building I'm in, abatements. They give like a 20-year abatement. So the argument is, what they would do is they would look at how many years that we have not paid property tax and go, city got screwed. Yeah, but would that have been built? Otherwise, it was an empty parking lot where 1 Light was. They were paying probably $1,000 a year at most for an empty parking lot. You gave them the incentive, hey, we tax abate this thing. We're going to incentivize you to build this so you get the construction income from people working and building it. You got the people moving in. They added 2 Light. Now, the argument I agreed with was,
it's cleaning up
the area. Still need to do it, though?
Yeah.
And I agreed with them. I was like, you're right. Why are they still now? Hey, you want to build a new building? Now they want to build a new building because there's demand for it.
Right.
So I agree. There is balance to where they should go, no. We created that incentive, and it worked. We don't need to keep the same incentive going just because we did it before. You should.
Well, the problem is nobody's want to come in there if they've heard somebody else got that incentive.
Well, their incentive is that, hey, if I build this 20-story place, people will live there because people want to live there.
Right.
That's where the free market capitalism comes in. I'm not saying it's would have worked. I think
the incentive is subsidies.
It is. Well, and the guy that created, I've read a little bit on his story. The guy that did Power and Light, did One Light. He kind of did have a history of working in the private sector, and he had experience working in the public sector of these things you could do. He kind of worked together to create this. Credit to him for coming up with something very creative to be very lucrative.
Right.
But he was offering something. He came to the mayors. He presented saying, hey, I'm going to turn your downtown around. And in my opinion, it's inarguable that it worked.
Yeah, and sometimes their back's to the wall. It's like, what do we do? Just keep it to where it's at, where there's nothing here, or a possibility of something could come out of this.
Yes, and the streetcar is another good example. When multiple cities have streetcars. Now, that is funded mostly by us, and my property tax. I see. Yeah,
you said that's just by the county, right? Or is it the county or the area?
I think it's just the area. The county may also. I don't want to quote me on that, but I for sure know.
Right.
My property tax, I see a line item right there for it, like $200. So people say, "Oh, I'm going to take the free streetcar." I'm like, "Yeah, you're welcome."
Yeah,
I got you on that one.
Nothing's free, guys.
But my benefit, though, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. My benefit is, our place benefits by having access to a streetcar.
I think what it comes down to was that voted in, or is that something just?
It did get voted in, but it took a couple tries. It didn't get right away.
Okay.
And once again, like I said, it depends on execution.
Yeah.
So when you look at Milwaukee is a good example. They have a streetcar. It runs in this weird square. I guess that's where their businesses are. But it just goes in a square. Nobody rides it. And I get it. Why would you ride it? It was poorly executed. They just go, hey, look at other cities.
Poor planning.
Poor planning. Ours, I think, makes sense for our city. Go from one side of downtown to the other, down Main Street. It connects all that crap. Now it's going to expand to Westport and the plaza. So now, hey, we can access more of the city.
I think the problem is when they go to a free factor, because then you start getting just people loitering, people that just kind of mess it up.
I'll push back on that.
Yeah.
And this is where just observation.
Right.
And this is our city specific.
Right.
Where it does make sense, our city, and this is just observation and opinion.
Yeah.
Hates paying for parking. We hate paying for, we don't, until Uber came, we never paid for public transportation. That's why busing will never work. For some reason.
Well, I was going to compare it to busing. Because
we don't love buses.
There's free fare.
We hate buses.
Yeah, but there's free fare and it's causing a lot of issues right now.
It's stupid because that was dumb. I mean, in my opinion, like both of them could have been dumb.
Yeah.
But
just make them pay a fare. Then it pays for itself.
Yes. But in general.
Why tax you for it?
But if the demand was there for using buses, you could make an argument, it makes the spending of people more fluid because you're moving more people around. I don't think people do that.
I know, but if there's a demand, then just let those individuals who are riding it pay for it.
True.
And that'll show how many buses we need instead of just, we'll tax them. We'll tax the community for it.
Well,
and then we can have all these half-empty buses just driving around all day.
The argument against the streetcar, which I fully agree with, was, it's kind of a touristy, it's not functional, it's more of a toy. And I go, yeah, you're right. It is a toy. It's a cool-looking toy that makes our city look a little bit cooler.
Right.
It gets the tourist in going, this is a little more cosmopolitan. I think it does help in that regards. If anybody's claiming they use that streetcar as a utilitarian, I get to work that way, they're lying.
No.
And if I agree at the fair point on buses, you take buses to get from one point to another.
I don't know. Maybe the younger crowd. They say the younger crowd is driving less and less. So maybe. Yeah.
I would be surprised. I could be definitely open to be wrong, but
if it's utilized so much, why not do a $5 bus fare?
Because
$3
I think
the
minute you did bus. That's what I mean, bus.
Or, not bus. The rail car fare.
I honestly think here's what people would do. People are cheap and they're weird like that. They're gonna go, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna.
But it's coming out of your taxes anyways.
No, my taxes.
Well,
not the
people
tourist
there.
taxes.
You're right.
It's always who's paying for perception because it's always called free. Now, for me, they would say, well, you get the benefit. Your property value should rise because it's a benefit. I don't disagree because you're on the streetcar line. So it is a little bit of back and forth. It's always a shell game.
Right.
But in my opinion, that's why it has worked is because, you go to other cities, everyone pays for parking. It's a norm. We freak out. That's why, half the reason why this vote failed was because I can't tell you how many times I heard the word parking said. Parking.
Parking sucks.
Where are we going to park? Where are we going to park? I'm like, you've been Arrowhead? It's like, parking ain't exactly awesome or cheap there. So let's get real.
Isn't it too because a lot of businesses are held to a certain amount of parking they have to have for their business? So some of them have a huge fucking parking lot and it's not needed. So you're like, well,
I'd agree.
Let's charge.
I would agree that is possible.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, that
And I might be wrong.
No, but I think you might be right on that, actually.
Yeah, or how much it takes to make a parking lot. You hear that $20 million parking lot they're making in the 18th and Vine?
Yes.
$20 million. They said that broke down to like tens of thousands of dollars per parking space. That's insane. Insane to me for a huge concrete parking lot.
And on inflation, I guess what I heard the governor say regarding all this stuff, and it's kind of he even said this. He goes, I don't agree with this. I don't love that it happens, but he goes, the fact of the matter is inflation does happen. And he goes, so we're paying this one-time fee for this stadium to keep these teams, but tickets, beer, concessions, merch, it's going to go up over these next 30 years. So when it goes up, it's going to, every 10 years, going to pay back this stuff faster and faster, yet we still have the benefit of these stadiums and teams being here. So even if you look at cost of stadiums, yeah, it seems insane right now. Take housing or stadiums. You go back to like 1995. They're building full stadiums. You know, I think I saw one. Oh, let's say, okay, where was it? It was like a beautiful big stadium we still see now. It's like $200 million. And I'm like, $200 million? It seems like a bargain right now. The homes might be like, yeah, I got this one. These are like, well, $200 million. But at the time, it was a huge amount of money. Same with housing. You look at how insane housing costs now. Well, go back 30 years ago. It's like people are like, oh yeah, I bought this home that's worth $700 now. I bought it back in '98 for, $140,000.
Yeah.
It's shit gets more expensive. So does everything else. So I think they looked at it as if we lose these teams, it's a one-time never coming back deal.
Right.
They're looking 20, 30 years down. Even some of these studies in there, they were looking 3 and 5 years past it when it being built. I think if they build, let's say they build it downtown, I bet it'll take at least 10 years before you really start to see the full culmination of it coming together. Because you're going to see people going, hey, we should invest in this restaurant area. We should invest coming down here. It takes time and effort and everything else to get together. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
You'll see some big chains try it. They have the money, but it will eventually happen on there.
Yeah.
That's what I saw in Denver, at least. We were down there. I'm like, it didn't happen overnight there either. What happened now? I'm like, holy shit. You guys have people everywhere down here spending money, helping the city. And that's the bottom line is anybody that wants to help the people, in my opinion, it's like the old fable, teach a person to fish versus give them a fish.
Yeah.
If we can figure out ways to help people get to work, more jobs available, and more importantly, start more businesses. And that's why I was kind of busting your balls a little bit about sales is, to me, being a background in sales and seeing it and being in all my life, and hundreds of friends in sales, a salesperson, is the first business owner of themselves. You are self-employed, number one, sometimes. Like whether you're a realtor or whatever, you are 1099.
Right.
You're on your own. You eat what you kill.
Yeah.
And, I've seen a lot of people don't get into sales because they go, well, that's not my personality. I've seen tons of people without personality that just kill it because they have just consistent habits. They can talk to people. And I told you, you're a hell of a salesman. I mean, my neck hurts right now because you're a hell of a salesman. There's not a chance I would have done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu without the way you promoted it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what sales is. It's promotion, excitement about something that you think works and does work.
Right.
If it was bullshit, if you were like, oh yeah, this thing's actually cost $1,000 a month, it sucks ass. You're not going to love it. I'm just lying. I have my own gym, frankly. That's why I'm trying to get you to go there.
Right.
I would have gone once and been like, cool, this sucks.
Right.
I mean, when I got into it, like I try to be more of there was a movie, a Jim Carrey movie that came out maybe about 15 years ago called Yes Man.
Oh, I remember Yes Man.
Yeah. He was all depressed. Everything was just yes. So I try to be a yes man. Like anytime somebody brings up something, it's, yeah, I'll do that. And my wife was going, you go to the gym, you do these things. She's like, she says to me when I was telling her about it, she goes, yeah, I think you need more than what the gym is. And I was like, really? Come on. I'm trying to give you a good say. She's like, no, that's not what I mean. She's like, I think you need mentally something more.
It is, yeah.
And so, I went in there and this was like fish out of water. Never done anything remotely like it. I'm like, and your comment from Friday was exactly right. Just stop being a bitch. Let's go. And I'm like, all right, let's just go. Let's go. And, you show
it's
up.
Because that's what I have to tell myself. I mean, there's times I don't want to go, dude, but I have to. Unfortunately, right now I'm dealing with some bulging discs. So, and I've had this issue even before jiu-jitsu. So please, anybody watching, don't get scared. you definitely have to take care of yourself. It's definitely not the most gentle art as they claim, but gyms do a good job, at least the ones I've been to, and I'm sure yours as well, because you're going to Gracie Baja, right? And all the gyms do a great job of like setting you up right with the right people and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's amazing.
It just so happens that I'm a fucking idiot and I like to go fucking hard and do shit that I probably shouldn't be doing at my age. But it's fun. But I've also been dealing with bulging discs even before jiu-jitsu. And, you know, sometimes if you don't take care of injuries, they're going to catch up. And so right now I've got to take some time off. I got to, you know, focus on PT, be able to, you know, get through that. And, you know, it comes with a cost. Missed out on my competition, you know, but it's really my thing. I've been doing good at managing it, but I need to stop, like the lifting hard that I'm doing, the amount of training I'm doing. I just, you know, I look past the PT part. And I need to dive into that. So. But I recommend it to everybody. Like, I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. Like, cause it has helped me a lot. Like I've been in the gym, you know, not seeing all the results I wanted, and also too the mental side of it. It's like you can only lift for so long, at least myself.
No, you're right.
And when you get out of high school, were you a sports guy in high school?
I played baseball. Okay. Yep.
After high school, there's really nothing for adults.
No.
You've got rec ball, you know, stuff like that, but nothing like that can literally that's new. Because you knew baseball.
New is the thing. You're right.
That's you knew baseball. But how old are you?
43.
43. As a 43-year-old man, there's nothing really new that you've seen, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Nailed it. No, this is exactly right.
And so this is like, holy, what the fuck is this?
You nailed this to a T, because it is, like, I've saw the videos, different stuff of people talking about it. Mm-hmm. Like one video I saw was hilarious. He's like probably about maybe a little longer than me, maybe not. He's just like, I got choked out by a 100-pound woman today. Mm-hmm. Yep. He's like, am I getting better every day? No. Mm-hmm. Did I learn even how to tie my belt? Also no. Like, just like, it's because what he called it, and this is so true, it's the most humbling experience I may have ever done.
Yeah.
And everyone has this, it's a weird, interesting environment. Obviously, once again, execution of where you're at can vary, but in general, it's been pretty consistent. People will be very helpful. They'll, meet you at your level. The people in charge kind of place you where they are at.
Right.
And it is just a humbling experience, which I was saying to me exactly this. At my age, as an adult, we play a Thursday night softball league, which I love, but it's one night. It's not exactly hard work. Mm-hmm. And if I was to do something else, like I've said this before, like if I'm like, let's say, I ref soccer, but I don't play soccer. Mm-hmm. If somebody said, hey, can you play my team? I'd be like, if you have to have somebody, but I'm probably going to suck.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a weak link to somebody's hobby or intramural type league. So I'm not going to do that. But here it's like, at the very least, I'm helping somebody else kind of practice some of their moves because I'm trying to figure it out. And it's just like, you're learning something new. You're doing it, and just the sweat and the heart rate. I'm like, oh man.
No, but even you not knowing exactly just because you're new what to do, you're still helping others because they're getting a benefit from it's nice to be able to roll with a guy that doesn't know exactly what he's doing. Like, you shouldn't beat that person up, but you should be able to use that person to for like a blue belt or whatever, or even a 1.5 year white belt, let's just say. Like, it gives you confidence when you have a new guy walk in the gym, like, oh, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Okay. So exactly. I feel like, oh, I'm achieving something.
Yes.
Or, hey, I can slow down with this individual because I don't have to worry too much. And I can work on some things that I haven't been able to work on with this individual because he's about at my level or higher,
Yeah.
So everybody plays a factor.
Everybody benefits.
Yeah. Everybody benefits really in a sense. You benefit and going, oh, I ain't shit.
Yep.
I need to learn. And then that person benefits like, oh shit, like I'm learning something and I can also focus on this, and this. Or with you, he's seen a detail he didn't see with other people because everything's kind of slowed down.
Yes.
But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful art.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like I heard Rogan, he was talking about when you guys black belt. I saw a video of him giving a speech on it and just talking about the humbling experience. But it's also, this is the part I also love. You can't bullshit it.
No.
There's no faking it. There's no, maybe I'm this.
No.
You learn absolutely that you are what you are at that moment.
Oh, dude, my buddy Luke Josephine, because we all worry about belts. I want to be a blue belt. I want to be a purple belt. I want to be a brown belt. But he always told me, he's like, that belt don't fucking matter.
I've heard that a lot.
He's like, it don't mean shit. He's like, those mats will tell you what you are. that's it. And that's true. Like once you get on those mats, it don't matter what fucking color you are, dude. Don't matter. You could be a fucking black belt and get choked out by a blue belt.
Well,
it don't fucking matter.
What you're talking about, they do the no gi when they come in there and just.
No, I just mean like mats in general.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But in general, though, they'll have times where there's no belt.
Oh, yeah. When you're no gi,
like, yeah, you're in there like, let's go.
You don't know who's who.
Yeah.
Unless they're wearing a colored rash guard.
Yeah, it's just a wild experience to do because you're right. Just a new experience.
I know. How did it feel on your first day? Was it weird?
So weird. Like the way that
I was scared my first day.
I was. The word wasn't intimidated, but it was like
just nervous.
Just nervous. Fish
like
out
first
of
day
water.
of school type shit.
Oh, I went home and told my girls. My girls have a high anxiety. They're worried about like it is a whole world of my own to deal with. And girls, all right, I can relate to you a little bit. Like I had a lot
and you're starting at 43. Yeah.
I was like, I'm concerned. I had all those things. I'm like, don't know what they're gonna expect. And I'm like, and I go, I'm getting my ass kicked here. And it's what it is. Like the first day.
That's the best attitude you can have. Hey, I'm gonna go in there, probably get my ass kicked, but I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna learn. I
was as green as could be. I can't remember last time I did something so green where I'm walking in there going, I have no idea I'm wearing these things. I've never done this belt. I have no clue. Mm-hmm. And you kind of try to follow the lead of somebody a little bit. And it was like, first day was just a little bit of like, it was like when they did the specific train at the end, which was kind of like that sparring, but since you're new, there was like work on this. Even that was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but you should kind of go at it and try to do this.
Go with it, man.
It's all you can do. In the more stories you hear people talking about, like, oh yeah, it took me months to even get even hear what the hell they were saying.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, shit, you probably won't. I mean, it depends on the person, but I mean, I don't think I started noticing much until about 6 months. That's when you start noticing.
Do you think it's more of a you against you situation?
What do you mean?
Like when it comes, like you're talking about belts and this, that, and the other, and progressing. Do you feel more when you're there? Do you think more people in general, or you in general, are more focused on how am I comparing to XYZ, or is it more of how am I progressing and what am I not progressing on?
I battle with both because I am competitive in nature. So I start looking at other people and it does frustrate me sometimes because like, especially when you start with certain individuals at the same time. Like I
can see that.
Yeah. I have a group of guys where we started at Helion at the same time, like day one. And when they first opened, and it's like, you see this a lot. You see like, oh, I'm progressing. I'm getting this guy, and then he's progressing, he's getting me, and it's kind of like this weird ladder effect where you're kind of both climbing at a different rate, and so it does kind of fuck with your mind, but at the same time, you gotta talk to yourself over and over again. Hey, chill out, it doesn't matter. You're on your own path. They might be 21 years old with no responsibilities. You're 33 or 43, and you got other shit going on. So once I stopped like really caring about that, and I do at times, I still get competitive and I still, get down on myself, but you got to check yourself. Hey man, are you better than where you started? Yeah. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And the workout itself, I've told anybody that was ever willing to try it, you will get one of the best workouts you ever had.
Dude, I try. Even with girls. Like, I don't know why there's not more women in there. Yeah. I understand the sweat's all nasty, blah, blah, blah. Well, do gi. There's less sweat in gi, but not even that. Like the amount of calories you can burn.
It is like,
and it doesn't have to be intense. Like you can find a partner that like is on the same, once you're in there for a while, you kind of know who's about what. And you go, well, I'm rolling with fucking Jerry over there because he's not, he's not going to fucking try to kill me. You know what I mean? Like as long as you learn to say no, that's all that matters.
Oh, it's so, and the people, the environments you hear about, unfortunately, this place has been like that. They're very helpful.
That's awesome.
They approach you. Everyone's like, hey, man, how you doing? They're like, welcome.
Yeah, I haven't had any bad experience, and I've been to a majority of the gyms here. So, it's been great.
So, to be able to do that at this age has been phenomenal. So, thank you for like the excitement out there because with my ADD, and like I told you, I do like 5 things at once.
It shuts it off, doesn't it?
100%. Like
that's how I feel for myself.
It is like when I'm there, I said,
you can't focus on anything else.
Nothing else. I am like,
don't get choked or try to choke.
Yeah. Like, and when the instructor and the professors are talking, you're like, I am glued in with whatever they're saying because I can barely get, I'm usually like 6 steps. I'm on still trying to figure out step 1.
Oh, I know.
And so I'm like in there because I'll do the Peloton. I'll go to the gym. Time, 10 minutes sometimes, or my phone will ring. I'll do this. That place, it's like, I'm locked in. That hour goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I'm like sweating and I'm like, whoa, I got to disconnect for an hour. And really just get in there.
Yeah, and even afterwards, like you feel refreshed.
So refreshed.
Like you're like, it's almost like a runner's high almost. Like if you run a fucking 2 miles just solid, you're like, God damn, like you feel good. That's how I feel after rolling.
100%. I'm starting to see, like they say, oh, it carries over into other parts of your life. It kind of really does.
Because and imagine if you stick to it for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I'm telling you, you'll be a whole different man. Like I'm a completely different man than what I was 2 years ago. One of the funnier
jokes I'll tell you is well, my wife, absolutely appreciate you for letting me just get out here and text you, talk to you, bug you.
No, I appreciate you guys.
The one thing she will give when she meets you, she'll give you shit on is when we first met on Tinder. And she goes, I had a picture of me when I did a kickboxing class, and I had the hands wrapped.
Oh, your wraps, yeah.
And she goes, yeah, I almost swiped against you on there because I ain't dating karate guy. She was dogging on me. I ain't dating karate guy. She goes, God damn, you got the goddamn gi on. You look like karate guy. What the hell? This bullshit. I ain't signing for this. I'm like, playing game, right? But no, she's excited about it. She's like, no, I'm glad. She's very happy.
It's definitely not karate.
No. She's like, no, I'm glad you're doing it because you can get your energy out. You can kind of focus and just have that refresher. Because it does carry over into other things in life, like in sales. It's like especially 1099. So like when I was telling you about looking at sales, to me, that's always been an exit strategy for people. You got to find the right place. But there are places that have bases in commission.
Yeah.
But when you finally go 1099, it is you eat what you kill. And that's when you really kind of get some of the vibes of like capitalism and everything else out there. And generally, yes, when you have good months, you love capitalism. When you have shitty months, like, I don't know about this.
You're like, goddamn, wish I'd hourly
where's those government handouts here? I want some of that shit. But it's like that whole world of just like, and that's where if we get back to a place where everyone is more engaged, even when we talked about the taxes, when you were talking about, what's his name, had the great Milton
Friedman?
Yeah, when he had the worst thing, he was taking the taxes out.
Oh, yeah, when it's coming out of your paycheck.
Yeah. It's once again, the more that you pacify people, and that's what I think doing that is.
No, that's true.
It's pacifying people. Yeah. You might bitch and go, man, they took all this out of my money, but it's not real. And the reason why people don't think it's real, where's my tax return? Because they don't see it ever as their real money. It's this fake money that goes out, it comes in fake, and then they spend it. The more you depacify people, the more they go engaged in things.
Oh, I completely agree.
Like, that's when you go, hey, it's not a theory. It's, no, this is my money.
Yeah, it's my same argument in the private sector. If you want to see workers work harder, do employee-owned businesses. Yeah. Have them have a stake in give them a stock in the game, and I guarantee you'll see it flip.
Absolutely.
You'll see it complete.
Because what do you expect? Well.
You only give them $20 an hour. They're only giving $20 worth of work.
The worst is when the company sells for $1 trillion and they're like, well, now I'm out of a job and you got rich. But if everyone's getting
but if you say that, they're just going to be like, oh, you're a fucking socialist. They'll just categorize you. It's so stupid.
There's always levels. But that's the actual, your idea there is the exact opposite of socialism. That is an incentive of ownership.
That is.
Because they have a piece of everyone doing well. Like we want the company to do well.
And that doesn't mean you can't still own that company. There's a company right now that I'm interviewing for, and it's an employee-owned business, and it's doing very well from what I've read on their website. And the owner still has stake in the company. And I'm sure it's a larger percentage or a percentage that he negotiated. It's his company to begin with. So he just thought of like, hey, how do I get more people involved in wanting to grow this company?
Absolutely.
Well, just giving them a base pays, like you said, in sales is not, I'm sure in sales, you've seen the people that are in sales, they're trying the fucking hardest to sell that product. And what do you think is going to happen if you have employees in your business that have
an incentive?
Yeah, if they have an incentive, they're going to work harder. But dude, I constantly see in the private sector more and more, no bonuses, no 50-cent raises, all this bullshit, and then they're complaining about when nobody wants to work.
No shit.
When nobody wants to work for you.
Well, like in our place, the way it's structured is it's kind of like real estate. Like we have a company that started and owned it. They don't pay us anything. They provide the tools.
Right.
We are independent agents of them. We work hard. I've got a guy that works for me. He was like, you know what? I got to a point where I'm like, I need help to help manage this. But what did I do with his pay? He does have a base. He has a commission that he can, earn. And when they have bonus structures set up so if our business does better, we get bonuses. So I give him a good kickback.
That's cool.
When we hit those bonuses because he's now has an incentive. Hey, he's not looking like, oh, of course you're happy. You got your bonus. No. We're all happy because we're all getting paid.
You help him help you.
Exactly. So he has an incentive on there. And when you do that kind of stuff in sales or just in business in general or employees, they have a tie-in to want it to be better.
Mm-hmm. They have a reason to go to work. They have a reason to try.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing I've also seen, though, is these companies that will hire like agents like we are. I've always had to make sure we see that contract looks ironclad, because what can and does happen, whoever started that company and has all these agents, they benefit because they've got different income sources coming from these different guys. But inevitably, there'll be somebody that'll make even more than the guy that owns the company.
Right.
Their own independent agency can out perceive them.
Right.
Some people are like, yeah, more for me. This is great. Others, not so great. So it is a people-based thing. So do I have any solutions for that? I don't know. But I do think the more we can get to having, anytime more businesses start, the better. I think everybody wins in that. And so that's where we do have to kind of look at maybe the socialism thing is definitely not the way to go. But is the pure capitalism always the way?
I agree.
It can be the way. I could even attest it could be the way. Only though we never had. There's no place that it perfectly exists.
If there was a compassionate capitalism, then yeah.
What was that? Compassionate conservatism? Was that the thing with Bush and when he came in?
No, I had heard it on one of these PBS documentaries. This guy that owned a bunch of real estate, he was talking about compassionate capitalism. And I thought that was actually a good thing. He's like, I'm not trying to be the next. Well, he didn't say this, but pretty much he's not trying to be the next Elon Musk. He's trying to make enough to where he's well off, but at the same time not fuck everybody over, in the process.
One of the places I first learned about capitalism in general, this goes way back. I always had a background. I got a degree in marketing. Sales kind of came natural, but I was always like, I want to start a business. So it didn't work, but I tried it. I got involved in Amway back in the day, and they had a great program of teaching people how to be capitalists, because it was a pyramid setup, but it still was you make more, they make more, and
right,
et cetera, et cetera. But you would learn about capitalism, and it was the idea of, hey, we're all trying to increase. And a lot of those lessons I learned there kind of carry over, because it is just like, how do I found no better place than in sales or your own business to create more security, more money than in that. But you're right, though. I'm with you. When it came to like starting, I got kids. It takes money to get started. It takes knowledge, all those things. Those are concerns.
Yeah.
Those are barriers to entry for sure.
Yeah.
And so that is a tough solution how to come up with.
Yeah, it sometimes can be tough when you get older, building that network up, taking that hit for the moment, but like I told you, scared money don't make money.
Scared money don't make money. But I will say, like, it's not wrong with being a little bit conservative. Like, you do got to that's in general. People, I think, when they talk about like, oh, they see somebody doing stuff, I always look like, you got to see, like, you don't know the full picture sometimes.
Like,
Like, I always think, keep your costs low, keep your nut low so you can cover all your costs. Then you can get some more flexibility. So I think one thing that always scared me straight from the beginning was back during the crash during 2008. All those mortgage guys.
Oh, I remember.
I had a ton of buddies of mine in mortgage. They're making stupid money. And they went from having just, I got 2 cars, I got an extra house, all this crap, to I had to sell it all.
Yep.
And I'm like, I never want to have that happen. I don't want to ever have to go backwards. I was like, I will keep it conservative. But that was a whole other thing when it came to the housing market crash and everything else, because we weren't really doing free market back then either. Anytime people like to blame the free market, more often than not, there was a socialism side in it that caused the fallout.
Right.
So even when that housing crashed, those banks weren't stupid. They were like, we're getting them covered. If they were never covered, they would have never done it.
Right.
They did it because they were like, fuck, you're going to give us free money.
Yeah, bails out.
Yeah, bails out. Nobody paid any consequence. That's a whole...
It's horrible.
You can go down the conspiracy world in that place too on there.
Man, yeah. I don't know, man. It's wild, dude. I don't know. I try not to go down. I do go down the rabbit hole, but sometimes I'm like, man, Gabriel, I wish I could just go back to being in the Matrix and just not thinking about this shit, dude.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The whole...
Because it gets depressing.
It does.
Like, it really does get, like, sometimes, man, I'm like, damn, what the fuck is all
From
this?
the Matrix, the guy that went back, tried to go back in, it was like, thanks for showing me the real world.
Yeah, when he's seen it, I can't remember what his Splinter or some shit. I can't remember what his name was.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. The bald dude, he was just like...
The dude that was, he was the chief in Bad Boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he wanted
I can't
to go...
remember the actor's name. Yeah.
He wanted to go back in.
He was like, put me back in there and make sure I have money.
Exactly. Oh, the Matrix is such a a good.
Very.
People have used it for all kinds of analogies, but it's so true though.
Yeah. That was my last podcast that I used to have before this one. It was called Purple Pill. It was supposed to be the blend of the blue pill and the red pill, and that the truth was in the middle between the two.
It is though.
Yeah.
But that is true.
Yeah.
I still always forget when they say, I don't remember the movie of which pill was which though.
The blue was
because they always say red pill, but I didn't remember what.
No, because the red pill was going back into the matrix, and I think the blue pill was going into reality. I think that's what it was. I had to look.
Because that was people say, "Oh, you've been red pilled." So I was that. Yeah. I remember which, but
that's a whole different. Yeah, the red pill.
But there was because of that they were saying, "Oh, you're now you know this," and I was like, "Okay."
It gets confusing.
That movie when I first saw it in the theater, I was like,
"Yeah, they got red pill, white pill, black pill. They got all these different pills now."
And that's what I do think, though. The only pushback I've ever given on conspiracies in general is to have the conspiracy, you have to weirdly, like, for example, like the 9/11, like the first conspiracy I ever remember hearing about was the 9/11.
Yeah.
You ever see that old, was it Loose Change?
Mm-mm.
It was about 2003 or 4. These guys made a YouTube video and it came out and they were having all those theories of like, it had the eerie music in the background, and even South Park made fun of it because it was like, oh, where's the parts? Where's the plane? All this stuff. And you're like, man, maybe this did happen. And I go, wait, hold up. So to have it have been a conspiracy, like a full-blown conspiracy, you're telling me that this government that can't even tie its shoes together half the time pulled this off, nobody leaked, did it perfectly. I'm like, if they did do it, leave them in charge, hell, because that's an amazing coordination that could not be done, not from the inside.
But we do know throughout history there was a lot of false flags attacks that have happened that have came out, like even the Gulf of Tonkin being one during the Vietnam War. There's gray areas,
though, in that stuff. The stories, the time frames.
The problem is when we get into conspiracy theories, it's like we like to lump them all in the same thing.
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, there are some crazy ones, but there's also some that kind of hold merit and they're kind of questionable. It's like, well, why? Okay, I know you're labeling it conspiracy theory, but let's dive into it a little more. Let's talk about it. Or can we just look at it as like there's possibly truth in the middle where there was possibly neglect, like when there was a lot of warnings and there's a lot of things that were being said, hey, there are going to be a possible attack, and they just...
The new documentary on Netflix they did on 9/11 where they dove in from the CIA.
I haven't seen that.
It was very interesting because, just you can objectively look at it. Did they have warnings? Yes. Did they even said in this documentary, we had piles of paper showing all these warnings we gave them because we want to make sure they knew we warned them.
Right.
But they said the important thing was we didn't know when, we didn't know where, we didn't know exactly how. So what would you have done if you didn't know those 3 components? What you going to do?
I know, but I just have
a
hard time.
Say no more flying.
I have a hard time in trusting in our alphabet agencies when they say we didn't know, we didn't know. You guys know a lot.
But to say they did know, to say they knew to the effect that they could have stopped it. I mean, unless it was an individual that just, damn, I'm going to keep it quiet. It was like the Benjamin Franklin quote, the only way to keep a secret between, was it 2 people or 3 people, is if 2 of them are dead.
Right.
I don't believe that would say that there was, unless they were inside of it as part of it.
Entire NSA,
monster.
Yeah.
You'd have to have an absolute monster going. All the false flag stuff. And I mean, at worst, you could say, well, we thought it was going to be bad, but not that bad, I guess. But in general, that's what you'd be arguing for, is that these people, were coordinated enough to do it, evil enough to do it. I know the money, the oil money, or this, that, and the other. And it's like, I guess, but it'd be a tough push to believe that.
I see both sides. That's why I'm caught in the middle with it. I see both sides. I could see nefarious things happening, our government letting things happen. I could see that. But I could also see your side as well when you're saying, how the fuck are they going to keep everybody in. But I mean, I don't know, you look at so many of the whistleblowers and all these people that come out, and not even just 9/11, about other things.
I'm saying everything can be a little more nuanced than what there's a story they tell you is, for sure. I absolutely believe it could be more nuanced, but some of it, when it gets when the conspiracy also to me goes a little too black and white, this is it, you missed it, this was the guy who did it. Because like, for example, 9/11 to me was one of the quintessential ones that got big out there. You kind of hit the right timing of things. Yeah. With one of the things that just blew me away, the most recent conspiracy theory, and it goes out there, and I can go into the old depths of why I personally disagree with where people go with it. When I went to we went to New York 2 years ago, and we were like, we're going to the 9/11 museum, and they do a significant point to show you why 9/11 happened. Like who was they were like The families were the ones behind it. They said, we want to make sure nobody forgets this is who attacked us, when they attacked us, how they attacked us, all these things. They, like, the families didn't want to get lost. And I'm like, growing up, I was like 19 when it happened. And I'm like, that idea of that, even like, who would ever not know that it was, the Islamic extremists, Osama bin Laden came over. You could argue the reasoning, but the other unintended consequences of why he targeted America and all that.
Yeah, and there was like certain meetings prior, and people there's supposedly his family was evacuated afterwards, and Osama bin Laden's that were here in the States. There's a lot of
it did happen.
It's just weird, man.
Oh, it's very weird.
Yeah, it's just a lot of weird shit.
Absolutely weird.
But like even here locally, man, like I was looking up some things on like, the big thing is all the crime going on right now here in Kansas City. It's a big issue. And I was looking up and like, everyone's always talking about Mayor Lucas being, why aren't you doing something, Mayor Lucas? Why aren't you doing something? I didn't know that he has no control over the police.
None. It's a state-run thing because back in whatever year
the 1930s,
the mob ran shit. They bit the grass.
I just found that out. Yes. I didn't know that. But what's crazy to me, it's like, okay, so we still have something in place from the 1930s.
Yes.
Which, and I get, and I get both sides. It's like, well, let the state be the observer. That way there's no local
influence.
I get that. But then again, it's like my argument of why the Fed shouldn't be involved in everything in the States. Because how the fuck do you know in Washington, D.C., how I should be living in Kansas City? So don't you think it should have local people, the local government should have more power of their city? That way, if Lucas does have a chance to actually make some change within the department, if their recruitment rate is low or they need more money or whatever the fuck whatever it is to fix the problem, he can have control over it, but he doesn't.
He's just going hat in hand to the state going, please help us.
Yeah. And they're like, well, what's going on in Kansas City? Yeah. I got all this other shit to look at.
It is. They don't, it's like
I got St. Louis, I got Kansas City, I got Joplin, I got all Jeff City. Yeah.
It's like a state going to the feds going, please help us. They're like, I guess.
Yeah. So that's fucked up, man. Yes, I couldn't believe that. I was just looking that up on my phone now when I was trying to find the exact
Most
details.
people don't know that. They're like, Mayor, look, your city's going to shit. He's like, well, I think some people will say, Q tries to use it as an excuse sometimes of like, what do you mean to do? Like,
but like, and I know,
what is he going to do?
I know I talk some shit on him too, but I'm also, I try to be honest and logical about it too. If it's like something out of his hand, what the fuck's he supposed to do?
Exactly. I think in general,
I would like, maybe he does call it out and say, hey, I can't
He does call it, but
okay.
he also does call it out trying to say, hey, we do want this to be addressed. I mean, I think he was, a lot behind, going after the ATVs and getting that reined in. I think he was a lot behind that. I think there's a lot of argument going, oh, good job, you stopped the ATVs. But I think kind of like, I go back and forth believing in Giuliani's old broken windows policy of he put in New York where he's like, hey, if we don't clean up these basics, it's going to get out of hand. I think you do need to kind of go, hey, these ATVs, it's like Mad Max out there. I think people will say, oh, well, not until they hit a cop did they do anything. Maybe, but at least they're doing something because, there had to be something to be done. It was
maybe.
It was pretty long.
Yeah, I think they were still trying to but maybe. I don't know. Maybe they are. Yeah.
I think just in general, and that is a whole nother portion of the downtown stadium and everything else, the crime and everything else. Oh, crime ridden. I go, well, and I've argued, Q actually jumped in on one of my messages on a thread.
Oh, really?
Because I said to somebody, I go, well, hey.
Well, don't go against him or he'll fucking block you.
Well, I said to him, no shit. Well, I said to him, I go, where they're talking about in the stadium, they're about all the crime. I go, well, if you put something big, bright and shiny and new, it's well lit, it's going to be more active. Less crime happens in the light. That's just how it works.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And he's like, he goes, yes, the idea is to get more activity concentrated in an area to reduce that crime.
Yeah, because that's what they're talking about, that mass shooting that happened over the weekend. Those 7 people shot over there on like 35th and whatever. Which that gas station, I used to work in that area when I was a project manager. And I was it was a small company, so I was like superintendent project manager. But I was building some senior cottages over there. And dude, shootings every fucking day. That gas station was wild. And you know what pissed me off is that people are trying to tell the fucking gas station owner that it's his fault They're like, you need to get more security and you need to do what the fuck security? Good luck trying to hire security for that fucking area. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's scary as fuck.
We just had to go down that path. Now, what they would hire security would be as if they're not getting business. Clearly, I guess they're doing all right.
I guess.
We had a situation in our building because we were like last summer, every week, sometimes multiple times a week, another break-in, another break-in, another break-in, another break-in, another break-in. It was getting out of hand. And the police are under, and that's a whole nother subject to go to. Why are they so under?
I heard they're going up from the last podcast. I heard they're getting their numbers up.
They need to, because the support went away during the whole defund the police, all that, which once again was some of the worst marketing.
Yeah,
ever.
Defund. It'd be one thing to discuss better training or whatever to help these individuals, not defund them completely.
No, I think, to be fair, I don't think they per se meant defund. Some of them did, but I think it generally didn't. Yeah. But I'm like, could you guys be any worse at marketing? Like, come up with a better phrase. Like the one that no kings thing. At least that was like, that was good marketing. Nobody wants a king.
Yeah, we don't have a king. That's the problem, though.
Yeah, no, fair. Yeah. But I'm just saying,
who's donating to this protest?
I get into the whole argument of the whole, it's when everybody says, like, starting as little as on the comments, you're being paid. The whole, Soros funded this or they funded this to protest. And I'm like,
well, that one lady that's married into the Walmart family was funding it too on her own accord. But
I always thought
Walmart's one of the biggest
I just would love to see
paying.
If it was like, if the funding of the protesters really was, I'm not saying they're not.
I'm not saying to the protesters. I'm saying to the protest itself. Because there was 5,500 of those protests over that weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, that's got to be orchestrated.
I could see that. Maybe there was a point.
Somebody was trying to tell me, well, online on Twitter or on X and Facebook, you can gather up a bunch of people. To an extent. You got to have money to back that, though.
But I would always, where these people are getting paid? Like, I mean, I'm not doing that weekend. I mean, I ain't trying to protest. But
I don't think the people in general that are showing up are getting paid. I think the ones that are orchestrating them.
Oh, you think they're kind of like the...
Yeah, like that
going.
The invisible whatever organization that was helping back that No Kings protest. Yeah, I mean, they're getting salaries. I looked up some of the salaries. It's not much, but they're still getting paid.
And, I'm not saying they're not, but I think that...
Which it takes money to kind of get those protests together. My thing is just, what are we talking about here? You know what I mean?
That's my thing. It's the equivalent of...
It's optics,
we've had this, probably forever. I mean, literally since the Tea Party. I mean, when 2008, when Obama came in and they cleared them all out, all the Republicans out, they'd started the Tea Party and they were out there protesting. And then you had Occupy Wall Street. Then you've had the
what happened to Occupy Wall Street
protests.
Yeah, I mean,
I think people get angry, they want to protest. I get that. I think where people do, and this is where everyone needs to be aware of, though, when it comes to any type of like movement like that, is to not always bend over to them, but to at least go, okay, why is there this?
That's my thing, is that you're just aligning with the movement because all your buddies are. You know what I mean? And you feel morally obligated.
New York Mayor, for example, probably New York Mayor, if you don't take them seriously, sometimes they can overrun you at times when the votes come up and different things because they mass together. So you got, like, even with the stadium thing, a lot of people, when the vote came up, they assumed it was going to pass. Like, it was just an assumption, like, it's going to pass. It's going to pass. It always passes. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there going, I've read enough of these very angry people. I disagreed the shit out of them. I think they were full of shit with a lot of stuff. There was a lot of them, and they create the momentum. And some of this stuff, they do create change with their momentum. So I think it's to always, every time somebody's protesting, just like the Tea Party, these quacks with freaking tea pots in their hat, they can, if you don't take them seriously and listen to see exactly what's happening, that's where I think sometimes gets lost. You got to examine your own house sometimes. Like, do they have a point?
Right.
Not that you agree with their point, but what could we do better? Like I said with Doge, what can we do better?
Oh, I'm
like, there's so many things like that.
Yeah, don't blindly follow the people that you elect. I think that's wrong.
And so with our local city, like with the
ATV, for people who do criticize the people they elect, don't call them some sort of Trump apologist or whatever the fuck you want to I'm getting tired of all these fucking labels, man. It's like, no, I'm holding the person that I elected accountable. Yes. If I don't like something, I'm not just going to stay quiet about it. Like I see Dave on Smith, the left and the right.
That he was going off today off of
and he did. He said, he's like, I'm off.
And I'm not going to apologize.
Yeah. Well, no, he did apologize.
No, about saying, he said it's not going to apologize for going,
No, but he said, I'm done. I'm off the fucking Trump train, which I agree. I am more than upset with how things have went, because the way he campaigned, everything that he had it all, and all he had to do was implement it, what he said, and he didn't. And it's fun. And I get it. I have a couple of people that I know that are still on that train, and man, I'm stuck in this position where like I'm off, but I like feel like, man, did I hop off too fast? Should I have stayed in there? But I don't see things changing. I don't think they're going to change. I think what happened is that you can campaign on all these promises like everybody else does, but you'll get to a point where I think the machine is too big and it's going to slap you on the wrist and tell you to chill out. Hey, we're not doing that, and that's kind of what I've seen out of Trump. He's been in there, almost 200 days or something like that?
7 months.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it. You get 4 years, but really you only get with him? What do they say? You only get really a year and a half.
Then the midterms come in and people get all like, we're done doing stuff. You get 1 year to really put big stuff through.
Exactly. And I just think I just don't see it happening, to be honest with you. I know it's too soon. It's too soon. I don't know.
It's so tough to say. There's so much behind even just that alone. The last 8 years.
I mean, the way Doge crumbled, it was just like, I don't know. It was just, and what happened to income tax getting, cut? What happened to $5,000 being given back? What's up with the Make America Healthy Again? How's that going? I mean, it's slow. Everything's just so slow.
And these opportunities do come from sometimes and usually bad things.
I know, but then all of a sudden and all these executive orders that are probably going to get changed when the next party gets.
That is the one thing, is the executive order way of doing
Thomas
things.
Massey talked about it a lot. He's like, you got to stop doing these executive. You got to put this shit in.
Every executive order gets put in can be just undone
the
minute they don't keep
it. Looks fancy. Your big old signature, and And
it could be his undoing, his Achilles heel. If he does everything via that way, it's only going to win if he continues their party to win. I mean, they'll all talk, he's going to run for a third term. I don't know.
No.
I don't think so.
No. There's no way that they would let that happen. That'd be fucking insane.
That would be a step too far.
Because that would be stupid for the Republicans to endorse, because then all of a sudden when a Democrat gets in, they're going to do the same shit to you.
Yeah. That's always the thing is, and I get, and that is the slippery slope argument. That's the people on pure principle that I agree with and understand, and sometimes disagree with. It's when the ACLU has always been big for it. Like, hey, look, it's the idea of defending people you hate, but because we don't want to lose that right, it could always be turned on you.
It always can.
I understand the argument of when it came to the deportations of the college campuses when they were aligning with.
I did not agree with that. The Palestine issue.
I totally get where that would be coming from. I think you could have gone after them for different reasons, not to say deported them, but there should have been actual civil liberties charges on other things that could have happened.
Yeah. Or how much was your accusations? How much was there any evidence backing that they were tied to terrorist organizations? Because that's what they were accusing.
Well, they said, they turned Hamas into a terrorist organization as actually defined as. So
I know, but are they saying they support Hamas, or are they saying they support Palestine?
You see both, and in the details of that, that's
what I'm saying. To me, they're two different things.
But the argument that I would agree with would be in the why they're saying it.
I support America, but I don't support our government half the time.
But the agreement where I'd say all of us would agree on is why they're saying this. If you can say, well, you support an enemy combatant, if somebody else gets in charge and decides who's an enemy combatant,
that's what I'm saying.
How do you know that they're not going to go, hey, you're the one supporting enemy combatants? So that's where it gets slippery.
I mean, look how many people get labeled a racist or a white nationalist that support Trump. You know what I mean? Like they can just throw a name at you and then accuse you of something. That's what I'm saying. That's what's scary. You got to be careful of that, because as soon as you start doing that shit to people, they could do that shit back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the risk people run, and that's where the ones that be like, hey, look, we're about free speech and so forth. Now, once again, free speech, free from consequence, that's a whole different animal.
Right.
But with him, with that whole situation, it was like they did come at it pretty hard. And that's what I'm saying. Trump's done some things where people definitely on their side are saying, whoa. I definitely don't agree with that.
That's one thing I like about this. And I'm not going to say Democrats haven't done that on their side, but I've been seeing that more on the conservative side. With this administration, a lot of people are calling them out on his shit. And I think it's doing something.
And it's good, though. I think that's where it's holding people accountable. I mean, he did fight against Massey, was it yesterday, saying, I'm going to.
Oh, he's ridiculous. That shit pissed me off, dude.
Like,
Thomas Massey, the only person that is literally like just looking for the best interests of this country and is getting called all sorts of ugly names by him. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You know, I don't understand that. I don't, because I like to think of Trump as a smart individual, but then sometimes he just does dumbass shit. I don't get. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing? Do you have nobody in your corner telling you, hey man, no, we should probably kind of look at this. It's like he can't accept defeat. Like he can't accept to make a mistake.
Yes.
At all.
He's never apologized for anything in his life. Yeah. Have you ever been like, I don't think so.
I know, bro.
And that's where, like, even like with the, I understand, I have a different opinion of it, but when the Supreme Court came out, overturned Roe versus Wade, a lot of people that were for that were very happy. But I'm like, let's say you're the same people, but you were very like pro Second Amendment. You're telling me they couldn't eventually just do the same damn thing to that amendment? I mean, it might be an amendment, but they're all amendments.
Yeah.
And to turn over and try to change it or manipulate it, I'm like, everyone runs that risk of that. So it's like,
no, I
careful what you wish for.
I completely agree. We have to be careful of that stuff.
Yeah, it is definitely a lot out there, and eventually it'll get sorted out. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I think we're eventually, the pendulum always swings back and forth.
Yeah.
And we'll get to a point where hopefully the right people get in place to swing it back at the final here of like.
Or settle in the middle. That's where I'd like to be.
Well, and I think where people's biggest concern is, well, it's still at a more smaller, very not important level, but where we're at here is when they were talking about, hey, we're going to try to pass the stadium thing. The essence was, we assume they're always going to be there forever until they're not. Just like the Kansas City Kings, like they looked at it like, yeah, we assume America's always going to be going that way, and maybe some of them feel like, hey, if we don't actually straighten that pendulum out, we're not going to have our country the way we used to.
Yeah, so I get it, man.
And that's where I think when people do fight for free capitalism and all that, I think all these people that are I love this socialism. Talk to people from there. The ones that came from Cuba, ask them, hey, what was it like?
No, I get it.
You didn't love it.
Well, the ones I've argued with, they always say is that, what do they say? Communism hasn't been done right.
Yes. Has never been done, like just like we say about capitalism, it's never been done purely. Well, you know what? It'll never be done in a perfect world, because I always ask them this. Okay, in a perfect world of socialism, what are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to me? Like, I'm going to tell you, I don't want to do it. I only do it for incentive.
Yeah.
You're not incentivizing. What are you going to do? You have to have a mechanism of force.
Yep, you do.
You can't force groups of people to be productive. You ever see, there's a great documentary.
Which isn't very compassionate.
No.
In a social.
Yeah.
I thought socialism was all compassion.
That goes into their world of what happens when eventually you get there. Like, and there's so many failures in communism, socialism. Like that movie, or there's a drama documentary about Chernobyl that was on HBO. And they're showing that world of like communism in its that form. And like, yeah, that's some of the shit why it went freaking haywire, because everyone was lying. Everyone was full of shit, because they were like, yeah, we're all just politically moving everything. Everything was all political.
Oh yeah.
Nothing. That's why whether it's
all propaganda,
whether it's jiu-jitsu, whether it's sales or anything else, that is pure as in either we did it or we didn't.
Right.
I think most people, when it comes to capitalism, they don't like that, like no bid, behind closed door, government hand you deal type shit. That's not capitalism.
Right.
And I think most people are against that shit. So let's get rid of that bullshit.
Or the crony capitalism.
Yes. Yeah. Similar type shit.
Right.
But the real capitalism, people actually out there trying to start a small business, start a car wash, whatever.
Yeah. To be able to help their community, employ people, also benefit themselves as well. Everybody wins.
Yeah. And I think in general, most people when it comes to small business are noticing it's very tough to get that compete and go right now.
It is.
And that's where you want to fix things. And that's where we're talking about the ATVs and everything else downtown. These small businesses were screaming out going, we're struggling here. You've got these ATVs keeping business away. Anything keeps, it's like what brings customers and what sends them away. They're just seeing it firsthand. They're talking in real world, low level ways. That's why I would argue you put the stadium down there. They say crime gets worse. I'm like, not what I have observed. I mean, you can have whatever theory you want. I don't observe that.
Right.
You could say, like, one of the big arguments always was, and you even said it in the verse, like, oh, I see why you're biased. No, in these studies, they try to say, no, the local people are against it. I'm like, they are? Because I'm not. Nobody I know is. The locals on there, because it isn't a biased way. It is for us. Mm-hmm. It's good. And so I was like, that's kind of weird that you would say, no. That's the other one was talking about, making up with the crime and the pollution and everything else. I'm like, I've kind of come to the conclusion, in my opinion, of these studies, and it can go right hand in hand with the studies say of with COVID when everything was there. Mm-hmm. I don't per se believe, I disagree with a lot of people on this, that like with COVID, I don't think that was ever like an intentional, like it could have been. Maybe there were certain factors in it, but in general, I think there was a general concern at the beginning,
negligence. Yeah.
And I think they did try to manage that situation through New York City's eyes. I think what happened in New York City was different than what happened in maybe Miami. I think you been in New York City? Mm-mm. Oh my gosh, it is. I've only been once. It did not disappoint. It was like, holy shit, this place is wild.
Real.
I mean, just it'll exceed expectations, but it's so many people, building, everything's on top.
In one area. Yeah.
And so if you took what COVID was, yeah, I bet you that shit really did like wildfire go. And B, and I looked this up the other day.
Yeah, but it was no reason to treat Kansas City as if it was New
exactly.
York. Yeah.
Exactly. Because I mean, I looked up, people would go, and I had it too, you might have had it. Oh, it didn't affect me for shit. The viral though, like how much, like, I mean, I'm not a doctor by any shit.
No, you're good.
The, how much you ingested essentially of the virus affected it. If you were in a concentrated area, like in New York City, they probably did have a lot fucking worse outcomes.
Right.
And they probably were like, hey, fuck this shit. Everybody conform to us. We're seeing bodies piling up, and they probably weren't lying. But yeah, if you're in Kansas City.
Right.
No, I mean, we did not follow protocol at all times.
No, I think the best route would have been just let people live on what they think's best.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's
I think it could have happened quicker.
Yeah, you can't control you can't control what people do. You can't try to stop. You just got to let people. Hey, these are the risks. You guys know the risks. Be safe.
I love it. I crack up and it annoys me. I see people still masked up. I'm like, what are you doing?
Wild,
what are you doing, people?
That's virtue signaling.
It is. It's 100% virtue signaling. I'm like, you're 25 looking.
Yeah. Or they're not mentally well.
No, exactly.
That's usually what I usually assume.
There is a lot of
which, hey, to me, you have the freedom to wear that, but
yes,
that's my opinion.
It's my opinion. That's exactly. Like, oh, it's bothering you. It's not bothering me. It's just, come on. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
You're not living. It's not good.
Yeah. If you want to ask my opinion, I'll give you my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I said at the very beginning of COVID that I was like, here's what they're going to do. They're going to be TSA in it to us. Yeah. They're going to find a way to make us copacetic. All right, we're allowed to open it back up. I think that is one place where if Trump was in charge, like people like to go down the vaccine. Trump was the one behind the vaccine.
Oh, he was.
So like people like to try to say, oh, no, he was part of that.
Was. Yeah.
He was part of the shutdowns.
He was part of the stimulus packages.
But I do think on the flip side, if he was still there, I think he would have ended some of that sooner.
Maybe. Could be a possibility. Maybe. Yeah.
But we saw what we saw. I mean, it went far too long.
I don't know with how much he's not listening now.
Yeah, no shit.
I don't know. Yeah.
But it was just like the amount of time that went on was unreal.
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
My kids going to school.
Definitely government overreach.
Oh,
for sure. Yeah.
Say the least. But, hopefully we learned valuable lessons. Mm-hmm. We're still paying for it.
Yeah, we are. And I think we'll still continue to pay, to be honest.
Oh, I think so. And we'll see any day now. This whole thing will get figured out because allegedly we're going to know this week.
Oh, is that when we're finding? Yeah, to wrap this up. So are we finding out more?
Yeah, so to wrap it up and kind of go over what we know, what's happening. Long story short, Missouri passed it. They got money coming in. They're still weighing the options. Kansas, I just heard this today. So Kansas can extend so they gave the teams June 30th deadline. Mm-hmm. So if the teams want to accept their deal, they have up until June 30th. We'll take the deal.
Okay.
But after June 30th, if let's say the teams don't decide, the state of Kansas can retroactively extend it. So hopefully they don't because that'll be freaking annoying. But I think what's going to happen is Kansas has their deal out there that expires, but they can renew it. Missouri has their deal. I think we're going to see, though, a conclusion, at least. Now, what I think is going to happen next, based on what I've heard, you're going to see the Royals make a decision, which if it's in Kansas City, like it'll probably be Washington Square Park. They're probably going, as Q said multiple times, we can do another supplement because they're going to probably want more money because Kansas is offering more money. They're going to say, okay, we're going to give that sales tax portion from just the stadium district. You'll see that happening. That does not need a vote. The Chiefs, if they do stay, they're probably going to ask for more money too. You will very likely see a Jackson County Chiefs alone sales tax extension, just like we voted against before. But this one will probably, I'd expect it to be a smaller sales tax. That's what I'm hearing. It'll be probably half because it's one team, not two. And it'll just be the Chiefs. That's what I would expect. Everyone that seems to be in the know says that's what to expect. But who the hell knows? They've been stringing us along for freaking ever. And I'm kind of done with it, talking about it.
So this week we should see a lot
I
of
think
it.
so. I think there's a high likelihood by Monday, because it was their self-imposed timeline. And that's what the state Senate got kind of like, hey, we passed this at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You asked us to do this. You hold it. They even said straight up, you stick to your own self-imposed deadline. We did. So hopefully we have it wrapped up. I think, though, one thing where it's not worth talking about, but it is just to make people feel better about it, is the baseball team alone. There'll be no voting. I believe there'll be no voting again. It's going to be our representatives did it, whether it's Kansas, whether it's Missouri. You will not go. There's nobody be listening to this. There's never going to be another vote for them. The Chiefs, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Only if they stay in Missouri and say that's not enough. But I've also heard about Kansas, that their little sales tax district, it's kind of bullshit funny money. It's not the same as Missouri's.
Oh, really?
They said because Kansas is, yeah, we should get that much in sales tax, but it's backed by nothing. So I don't know if that falls back on.
So they're really trying to pull everything out.
Oh, it is really out. Yeah. Like, for example, I don't know if there's something in there that says, yeah, the teams, if we don't cover it through sales tax, it goes back to you. I don't know if it does that or not, but it should, because if let's say they went to Legends, they already have a sales tax district for sporting in there. A lot of that money comes from sales tax from Nebraska Furniture Mart. What are they going to do? Give the same tax to both people? So it's funny money over there.
Yeah. It's a little weird.
Weird. Missouri's is backed by this, will be backed by the city and the municipalities. So it's a little more secure, but
guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. This has been awesome. I freaking
dude. No, hey, I appreciate you coming on, man.
So good.
Yeah, I wish we could. That's the shitty thing. There's never enough time to go over everything. But dude, I want to have you on again.
I will be on again.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely will be on again. I'd be on again if you had another person here that you wanted to have somebody on with.
Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick. I would love it. I have no disrespect to him, but I would. This is where it always comes down to. I know we're over time, but I'll wrap it up with with this. I think we've talked about the holding people accountable. What really needs to be is put these people in the same room. Like even with I disagree with so many points, agree with so many points. Like when they had Rogan had both those guys, Dave Smith and
Douglas Murray.
Yes, all together. Long form, talk it out.
But you got to be able to talk it out.
Yes,
that's the problem that Douglas Murray had. He didn't want to talk. He was just saying that he wasn't an expert.
I disagree a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I know.
But that's okay.
I've talked to some people on it. Yeah.
Like one TV show I thought would have been great back in the 2000s. I always thought, like, if they gave Jon Stewart, who I loved watching The Daily Show, I always enjoy it, and Bill O'Reilly at the time, those two kind of always sparred and would go on together and share each other's shows. Put a show together.
Yeah.
And that way, hold each other accountable.
But on the disagreement for Dave, I mean, other than the fact of him saying that just because you haven't been on the soil,
totally agree.
That was the issue that I had for the first hour and a half. It was all of you're not an expert because you haven't been there, so you don't know how to correctly observe this.
Agree on that. And if that was, in my opinion, his whole point, I wouldn't agree.
Yeah,
with that.
But if he would have just took that away, that first hour and a half, and just heard Dave Smith out on his part, and then countered. We didn't see any of that.
There wasn't a lot. I think what he was trying to counter with, in my opinion, when I was watching, was not that he wasn't an expert, but he was disagreeing with what he was seeing. He goes, I know you may be hearing that that's what they're saying. He goes, I'm there, and you're giving a secondhand account from something you heard. He's like, I'm telling you, I'm there. That's not what we're seeing.
But he's following people that are there.
But he's also been there. He's also been there.
I know, but that doesn't. I get it. I get what you're trying to say. But just because you've been there doesn't make you right. I'm not saying that makes him right either. Yeah, it's like, well, who took you there? Did he take you to did they only take you to certain areas? Did they only have you talk to certain people?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So we could play that game all day long.
They could have North Korea'd it and been like,
well, yeah, exactly. Or it was like, trust the COVID experts.
Yes.
And how did that go?
Absolutely. I
So
mean,
that's what
we can do a
worry
whole
about.
segment just on that.
That's what
I'll
I
tell
mean.
you.
But yeah, so I could see both sides on that. But I mean, really, from what I've seen overall, I just seen Dave Smith trying to get his point across, and Douglas Murray just falling back on, you don't have enough
There was a little bit of that,
credentials
yes.
to be able to discuss this. So that's
a little bit
what,
of that.
That's what upset me.
There was a little bit. It could have been better.
It could have been better.
But
I've seen debates set up, and I like when they do 5 topics or 5 segments of that topic, and then they hit only on those 5 segments.
I've seen that, yes.
That's how it should be.
Anything that is for putting people together, airing thoughts at the same time, unedited.
The problem is, though, is when you don't have structure, it'll turn into Douglas Murray,
or even I do like, but I don't like the surrounded one where it's like you never actually get a full thought out.
No, you're just talking about the same shit for an hour, and it's like, no, you need to have it broken up into segments. I think that's the best way to do it.
Oh, it is good.
So I think if Patrick Tuohey does want to come on, he's always welcomed, as well as you. Yeah. You know, he's a good guy. You know,
I believe it.
Yeah, and he, he had his own opinion that I felt held up pretty well. I see your side as well. I think it holds up well too. And it really just comes down to being able to have these conversations in long form format and letting the people decide.
Absolutely.
To be honest. So. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Definitely come again.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again, man.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, man.
Sounds good.